There's in the United States, and I'm kind of being parochial here. In the United States, we have an aging population,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been that way for like 20 years, and it's getting progressively worse because all the baby boomers are starting to age out and retire. So roughly, there's about 4 million people a year that are getting to the point where they're retiring, and a lot of those are going to need care. We created a problem in our country where now that we're living longer, uh, it may not be that we're living more fulfilled. So when I was born, way back in the Stone Ages, the average age for a man was 67, and the average age of death was 69. It's now 81 and 83.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a 15-year delta. So that 10 years, the last 5 to 10 years of a person's life, they need help. And in the United States, there's a problem where most of the adult children don't live within 100 miles of their parents. So they either have to move their parents in with them, or they got to find a caregiver or put them in assisted living, which begs the next question is that, well, great, I need care for my mom and dad, but where are the caregivers?
Mm-hmm.
So in the United States, for the last 10 years, there's been a clarion call of, oh, there's not enough caregivers, not enough caregivers, not enough caregivers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not entirely true. There isn't enough wage. So 20 years ago, caregivers would work for 850, 875. Even 10 years ago, they would
Mm-hmm.
work for $9. But now they can't due to a lot of factors. Things get more expensive, and in the last couple of years, they've gotten a lot more expensive. So now there's a thing called private duty, and private duty is where you hire an agency in the United States, and they supply a caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
And the average cost of a private duty just 5 years ago was about $20 an hour in Austin, and in different parts of the United States it was a little bit higher, but now in Austin it's $29 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And places like San Francisco or New York or Chicago, it's in the 40s an hour. So people can't afford it anymore. And part of the reason why they can't afford it is because the overhead running a private duty agency, they take it out literally on their caregiver. So what we did is that we figured out a way to get rid of a lot of the waste, going doing everything online, and so we could afford to pay our caregivers something known as the 2/3 rule, which is we pay our caregivers 2/3 of whatever we charge our client. So, as an example, in Austin, if we're charging a client $30, the caregiver is making 20. On average in Austin, it's about 11.50. So that's an $8 an hour raise right away for doing the exact same work. So that's the problem that I fixed. And in the United States, it's a $210 billion a year industry. What they call private duty, private pay, where you pay
Mm-hmm.
out of your pocket. And the only insurance that pays for it is long-term care insurance, which you usually had to get before you retired from work. And in some instances, you get something known as veteran aid and attendance, which is if you were a vet or a widow of a vet, you get some of your care paid for. So that was the problem I was set out to fix
I
in a
see.
nutshell.
And how did you fix that? How did you lower the cost?
I essentially got rid of the back office. So the biggest problem in running a private duty agency, and I'm going to say this in a really kind of negative, is chasing after caregivers. And it's super expensive to do that. So when you lose a caregiver on average, it costs $2,500 to replace that caregiver on the
Okay.
training and putting out ads and various things like that on the way that it's done now. In our system, we created a marketplace. Essentially, we have 75,000 caregivers across the country
Mm-hmm.
and because we allow people to hire their own caregivers, that you can uh, the cost to find a caregiver is dramatically lower in the dollars instead of the 2,500. So just in Austin, where our first beta test was done, we have 670 caregivers that we have access to. And one of the things that we do is that we have a matching algorithm so that they don't have to drive really far. In the industry, there's two huge problems.
Mm-hmm.
One is truancy, where caregivers don't show up. Roughly it's 25%, and that's been constant for the last 10 years. But the other one, and this continues to grow, is turnover.
Mm-hmm.
And turnover is when your caregiver leaves for another job or they don't want to work, and that's 83%. So on both of those, we've reduced it to under 1%.
Mm.
So as you can see, you could just do the math, right? It's if I have a 1% turnover as opposed to somebody has 80% turnover, I have a strategic, what I like to call a long-term strategic competitive advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can't compete on price. I don't need 3 or 4 people in my office to chase after caregivers, and
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of a negative way of putting it, but that's what happens. It's a huge cost difference, and it's the same as like what Craigslist did to newspapers, what Amazon did to retailing, what Walmart did to retailing. You get rid of a lot of the cost, you stand to outmaneuver all your competitors, and that was the one thing I saw is that there's a lot of people getting paid in this industry that are not delivering care, and that's just not right for
Mm-hmm.
multiple reasons.
I see. I see. So getting rid of the office made you able to reduce the cost. Was that the only factor?
Well, there is another factor, and it's the way we look at caregivers, which is totally different than most people. Um, Most people see them as uh, something to be told what to do or to be deployed in a certain way. We look at caregivers like adults. And by adults, we allow them to have a relationship with the client. And there's a big problem in private duty, which is called pirating. And pirating is when I bring a caregiver to you and you like the caregiver and the caregiver doesn't make a lot of money. And so, you start talking to the caregiver and saying, "Hey, sweetie, how much are you making?" I said, "Well, I'm only making $10. $10. So I'm getting charged 30. So you quit the agency
Mm.
and you hire the caregiver for 16.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a rampant problem.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
matter of fact, when I had to get care for my mother, and that's the whole reason why I started this. When I found out uh, my mother and I were estranged for a long time, and I ended up having to get a care for her in DC, and the private duty agency in DC almost killed her. So I moved her down here with me in Austin, and my mom's bilingual, Spanish and English, and we found a really good caregiver, Juanita. And after 7 months, Juanita, said, "Hey, Jeffrey, I can't work for your mom anymore." Master Y says, "I got a new job." I said, "Oh, fantastic." And I said, "Well, since she's got a new job," I asked her how much she was making, and it was $8.25. And so that's why you do piracy. I was getting charged in the 20s, so it would have been easy for me to say, "Hey, I'll pay $18. If you want to come over to me, or $15, I'll pay you direct."
Mm-hmm.
But the contract stated if I did that, I would be liable for $10,000. And that's pretty standard on all contracts. They make you sign contracts. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the other thing. We tell our clients, because we have the thing called the 2/3 rules, we tell our clients how much we're paying. We tell our caregivers how much we're charging.
Mm-hmm.
So if they just don't leave, I don't even have to worry about pirating. So it's just one of the things that you're more generous. Because you're
Mm-hmm.
more generous, you tend to have better loyalty with your caregivers, and your clients feel better about it. It's a really good selling point
Mm-hmm.
when I give someone "Hey, I'm charging you $30, but I can pay the caregiver 20." And they're like, "Really?" I
Mm-hmm.
said, "Yeah." And they ask, "Can you make money on that?" I said, "Yeah, we can."
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the sea change that's going to happen. And we're just starting selling licenses this month. And I don't know what will happen. I can't predict the future totally, but I know there's a big demand for it out there, especially with people that want it. They know this industry is big, and in
Mm-hmm.
the franchising market, you got to have 100 to $250,000 to start. With us, you need 20, 25K. Big difference.
Okay. So did I understood correct if I say that other your competitors charge like 60% and give 66% and give the remaining 33% to the caregiver, and you do the opposite. You
Right.
charge 33% roughly and give the 66% to the caregiver.
Yeah. Yeah. It's usually the best that we've seen is like 60/40 for our competitors. So they keep 60%, do 40 to the caregiver. So
Okay.
case in point with a $30 example, they're charging 30 and they're giving the caregiver 12. So
What if
that's
the
roughly,
client says, "Okay, I am paying, let's say, $100, and
yeah.
why give $40 to the company? Why not save 20, 30?" You can even think
Well, they
about
don't
that.
tell.
Mm-hmm.
We're different with
Mm-hmm.
our transparency. We're the only private duty agency in the country that puts our pricing online.
Okay.
That's the other big difference because we pay our caregivers well.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but why do you think the clients don't think that, won't think that?
Well, most clients don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Most clients do not know how much, and they don't broadcast it. So
Mm-hmm.
if I'm a competitor, they're not telling their clients how much they pay their caregivers. Under no circumstances they do that. Actually, they usually don't even allow them to have their telephone number.
I see.
So they're terrified with pirating. I mean, it's so expensive and so hard to get caregivers that they really are parochial about protecting those caregivers, because if they lose a good caregiver, it's going to take them 2 to 3 weeks to find a new one.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, $2,000 to $2,500 to get it. With us, it will take 1 or 2 days to get a new caregiver, and a fraction of the cost.
Hmm. So you think that
We're
yeah,
really a caregiving. We're a caregiving management and curation company more than a caregiving company.
right.
It's everyone talks, and I'm going to use this air quotes. Everyone talks about, oh, we treat our caregivers well and we have great caregivers and yada yada yada. No, what makes caregivers great is how you pay them, and it's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
In the formulaic world, if they're all doing the same job, and there's a distribution that most of the caregivers are pretty good, there's a few bad ones that kind of ruin it for everybody sometimes, and we've gone through our share, we've seen it, but the difference is what you're paying them. They're
Mm.
doing the exact same work no matter whom it is, and we've had caregivers bring clients to us because they get a $5 to $6 an hour raise for the exact same work. So yeah, when
Mm.
you don't have that overhead that you have to feed, again, when I did my first startup way back in 1998, I was in Sand Hill Road and they were having a really good, I can't remember what VC was having a presentation, and the guy got up there and he was saying, it doesn't matter about your team, it doesn't matter what you're selling, it doesn't matter your timeliness to market, this is what's going to make you a success or not. And he said it's a long-term strategic competitive advantage.
Yeah.
And he listed a whole bunch of them at the time, and I can't remember what they were, but it's to the point where for your competitors to change, it would be so difficult for them. They'd rather you just steal their market share. They can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sea change. It's so even if everybody knows what I'm doing, all my competitors, they can't do it. They can't get rid of their office because they haven't looked at the whole picture. And that's how progress always is done. People look at something that's there and say, oh, if I do it this way, I have a long-term strategic competitive advantage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it goes back to, I mean, it goes back to oil. When Carnegie bought all the, or Getty bought all the railroads, right? He had a quote a monopoly and everything, as well as all the distribution. He just lowered the cost so much that nobody could compete with him. And of course, when you can't compete, you go to Congress and make it say, hey, these guys have a long-term strategic competitive advantage. They make them break it up.
Mm.
So AT&T had the same thing, but AT&T was set by the government. They've made a monopoly. Google has a monopoly now, even though they really, there's competitors out there, but they do 90% of all searches on Google. That's how you become successful. I mean, a lot of people bemoan it, but that's what I hope to do. And then when we are out there, I could sell licenses instead of franchises at a fraction of the cost. I could be the largest private duty agency in 2 to 3 years across the country because it's scalable and extensible.
Fantastic. But um, what? Okay. Do you What's stopping your competitors from doing exactly that? Why wouldn't they get rid of the office? Why wouldn't they give 33% to themselves and 66% to
They
the?
don't. They,
Why
they
not?
don't. Three things. One, they don't have a caregiving recruitment and management system.
Okay.
So that's where it all starts. And so they don't have an integrated system that looks at I like to call it the gestalt of the caregiving world. It all starts with recruiting caregivers.
Mm-hmm.
So they're using old methodologies to run a new, and even if they have a automated office per se, where it's online, they have this problem with recruiting caregivers. They're still using Indeed, ZipRecruiter,
Mm.
and Glassdoor, which is expensive and not very effective. And you need people to manage that.
Mm-hmm.
So even if they know what I'm doing, they just can't replicate it because it took us 6 years to get where we are. So yeah, they could start today, and
Mm-hmm.
in 5 years they may catch up with me. By then, the industry's already changed.
Right.
We'll have our licenses all throughout the industry, and so it will be cheaper to join us
Mm.
than to compete with us. And that's the problem, people have with Walmart. Nobody could really compete with Walmart because they figured it out. Nobody
Mm.
could compete with Craigslist because they figured it out. It's just nobody. There's not going to be another Amazon.
Mm.
So once we get there, you're going to have to come up with something even better.
Mm.
And I'm trying to figure, as an engineer, I'm trying to figure out, okay, what could be, the only thing that will be better is zero. So the only thing that's going to give you zeros is the government takes over, and they might. I don't know. The government may say, I'm going to pay for all the caregiving out there. Well, they're going to go bankrupt really quickly.
Mm.
So they just don't have that amount of money with the aging population. So you got to figure out a way that's going to, the other big beating on the drum is, living wage, $15 an hour. Yeah, okay, great. So here's an example. In San Francisco, the average hourly rate for in-home care is between $40 and $45. So if I have a licensee that's in San Francisco and they're charging $45, the caregiver's making 30 an hour. That's a 2/3 rule.
Mm.
So that's way beyond the 15.50 that the minimum wage is in California. So I have not raised the customer's rate, but I've substantially raised the caregiver's salary. So when you do that, you're going to outflank all your. I went to
Yeah.
military school for 7 years. Yeah, I did Sun Tzu, the whole thing, but it's all about outflanking the existing market.
Mm.
And when you outflank them, they have no defensive position. You can just run right by them.
Mm.
And that's why it's, again, a long-term strategic competitive advantage. You cannot beat me on price. You have to beat me on something else. I don't know
Right.
what that something else is, but with a tie up with somebody or
Mm.
something, but you can't beat me on price.
Mm. Brilliant mindset. Not. It's very obvious. Like I've heard to Brian Tracy, he has the same principles, but not many people do this. They just keep on doing things like everybody else is doing, and they end up with,
Well,
yeah, what
in,
everybody
in
else is.
technology, that's really apparent. If you look at like IBM, and I came from tech, and the
Mm-hmm.
one thing I always would do whenever I created a product, I also would create my competitor product.
Mm-hmm.
So I say, what would beat us at this? So you can't be all things to all people, and if you are, you're going to fail. You just become average, and average just
Mm-hmm.
I call it the moldy middle. So if you look at IBM, IBM's always missed every generation, other generation in technology advancement, and IBM's has more patents than anybody. But the reason why you get stuck in your ways, you get a successful product, you just keep plowing that product away, and when you get big enough, people could chew away at your edges.
Mm-hmm.
In military parlance, they call it protecting your flanks. Well, they're not looking at their flanks because the arrow's going so fast deep, they don't care. And then eventually, when you have 20 competitors eating at your flanks, you don't have anything to hold on to anymore, and you've missed that next generation. I mean, even with, I look at Apple. Apple, everyone says, "Oh, Apple's so great," but yeah, they missed the internet. They missed the browser. They were, I was in San Jose when this all happened. Netscape came out, and Apple for a year and a half said, "Oh, this is a fad. The internet's a fad." I
Mm-hmm.
remember them actually saying, "Oh, really? Okay, good for you." And their market share for computers, they didn't have a lot of laptops, and they didn't have an iPhone at that time, shrunk. Everybody else expanded at their expense. There was IBM and Apple
Mm-hmm.
and a few other little players. Apple's share of the PC market is less than 10% now, and it used to be 60%, 70%.
Right.
So they missed it. Even good technology companies miss it. And Steve Jobs is a pretty smart guy. I mean, he was a forward-looking kind of dude, and actually, Apple has not made a new product since Steve Jobs has died. May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
They kind of they lost their visionary.
Hmm. True.
And he was a visionary without a doubt. He was great marketing, and I would say, hey, if I can think about it, we should be able to make it. which is kind of, they had an audience of one. Their market research was, hey, do you think Steve would like this? And if Steve thought it was a good idea, it probably was a good idea. He had that sort of insight, and
Right.
that's a rare individual.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, for the audience who don't know this caregiving thing, who are not in the U.S., who are from
Oh,
the other countries, the caregiver is a person who stays with the client all the time, 24/7, or visits occasionally?
Both. So in the United States, they 24/7 care, it's growing. Usually when you need 24/7 care, they'll put you into a facility,
Mm-hmm.
either assisted living facility or skilled nursing, but a lot of those don't have 24/7 care.
Mm-hmm.
You also, they put you in a facility and then you got to hire additional caregiving, which is like, okay, it gets really expensive. And by expensive, like if you go to an assisted living facility in Austin, it's 5,300, 5,500 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not getting 24/7 care. You're getting a caregiver that's kind of there that will check in on you, but most of it isn't. And that's part of the reason with my mom, when I moved her down here, I could have put her into Carencia, which is the nicest assisted living facility here, and they also go all the way up to dementia care. Uh, but it was at that time, 10 years ago, 7,500. I think now it's like 8,300 a month. That's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're gonna run out of money, and that's the other problem. Caregiving is not cheap.
And
It is
what
not.
is?
You
Mm-hmm.
need a lot of money to be able to afford caregiving.
Yeah, what's involved in caregiving? What the person does?
Well, it depends, and it's a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the caregiving is someone comes in and there's a thing called activities of daily living. They also called ADLS, and it's like helping with getting dressed, toileting, going to the bathroom, taking a shower, making meals, doing the laundry, light housekeeping. So that could take from 2 to 4 hours a day. That's not 24/7, and it doesn't have to happen every day.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times you could, it depends how far along. Like my mom was getting onset dementia, so she could be okay for a day, but every other day she needed somebody to come in. But I had somebody come in every day, and even though I had somebody come in every day, she got a cut on her leg. It got infected. She had sepsis, and she almost died. So I'm like, really? You guys are supposed to be watching out for that.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the other things that we do, we try to hire what's known as CNAs, which is certified nursing assistant,
Mm-hmm.
and they have training, and they could do all sorts of stuff from like changing an adult diaper to helping someone shower, washing their hair in bed. They do a lot of the chores that nurses don't want to do, and they're trained to do it. So
They would be
that's another
charging
reason
much
why
more.
we have a big.
They would be charging
I'm
much
sorry, what?
more. These kind of
Nope,
nurses. Mm-hmm.
nope.
Same.
Well, most of the other companies charge more for
Okay.
that, but we don't.
Mm-hmm.
So remember that 2/3 rule gives me a huge advantage. And the other thing that we don't have are minimums. So most companies have a 20-hour a week minimum or a 4-hour a day minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because it's really difficult to get a caregiver out there. And they also do this. They make them drive. In Austin, caregivers are driving an hour and a half for 4 hours worth of work. And I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. I don't want the caregivers driving more than a half hour
Mm.
or 15 miles.
I see.
And so we also have that on our matching algorithm. We also match on language, which is,
Mm.
when you match on language, you tend to match on a lot of other things. So weirdly, we have a lot of Filipinos in Austin. So, Filipino is, we've matched that. We've matched to Farsi. I mean, we've matched German. There's a German speaker. They wanted someone that knew German.
Mm.
We found a caregiver. Their second language was German. So, that's a big deal.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's good. And other competitors don't have that. I
they don't
think.
have a matching algorithm. We're like Match.com. There's a dating site in the United States, Match.com,
Mm-hmm.
for singles, whatever. And there's there's a saying that says, "Good artists borrow, great artists steal."
Mm.
So a lot of what we did was steal ideals from a lot of different places and put them all together in one
Mm.
thing and reformat it. So part of what we do is we match the caregiving needs with the caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
And we have one client that she wanted somebody over 50 that was bilingual, and and the reason why she wanted that is because, yes, she needed help, but she wanted companionship. That's
Mm.
another big deal. People, elderly are alone, and they need somebody to talk to.
Mm.
It's in prison, solitary confinement is a
Yeah.
punishment.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that for your mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
Getting old, a lot of the people, they don't have anybody to talk to at all. And so that's why, adult daycare is really good for them for socialization skills. And that loneliness actually brings on dementia quicker because
Hmm.
you have no feedback. It's a horrible cycle, a vicious cycle.
Hmm.
So having somebody come in a couple of times a week for that mental stimulation or getting them out to adult daycare, big deal. That's a
Hmm.
big deal in their mental health, which also affects their physical health.
Right. Maybe you might jump in future in this area as well, like some kind of people who understand the psychology of old
Hmm.
people and okay, okay.
Yeah, we partner with a lot of people. Remember, we got to stay focused until I own the whole industry, which is my goal is to have a unfair advantage in the industry so that they have to come and deregulate me, which is fine. But that time I'll be long retired. But essentially, we partner with people to offer different services.
Hmm.
So, like, psychological services, we do that. We're just talking to somebody now that has a fall device, the
Hmm.
detection, because that's a big deal. We've had clients who have fallen and they've laid on the floor for hours, and by hours, 10 to 12 hours. They've soiled themselves. They can't get up. They can't get to their phone.
Right.
We don't realize, as younger people, it's pretty easy for us to get up still. But
Hmm.
when an elder person falls down, they don't have the strength to get up.
Hmm.
They really need assistance. It's amazing that they don't break a bone or anything. They just can't pull themselves up, and they need help righting themselves.
Right. A few days ago, I had a podcast with a person in US who does part of the similar thing that you do, which is calling at a schedule to people to make
Yep,
sure that they are okay, and you have to press a
yep,
button 1, 2, 3 to acknowledge. And if something goes bad, they visit or call the neighbor or something.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Maybe you
yeah.
can.
It's a proactive approach to see if you're okay,
Hmm.
and that's a growing market. That's to us, that's like a niche market. Here's the other thing that's incredible in the United States. Everybody focuses on clinicians, which means hospitals and doctors.
Hmm.
And if you look at the cost of care, in the or not so much the cost, but the time of care, 80% of all the care is in the house, but 80% of all the cost of care is in the hospital.
Hmm.
So Pareto has that 80-20 rule, right? So now all the insurers are saying, it's a lot cheaper to deliver care in the home than it is in the hospital. Yeah, no joke. So what they're scratching their head on, how can we move the hospital to the home? And
Hmm.
their big problem is, oh man, we don't have caregivers. I mean, it's a great idea, but how do we get caregivers? Well, hello, that's what I do.
Hmm.
And so eventually you will see more and more clinical care. Home health does it now, but they only do it a couple hours a week with nurses that come and visit you at post surgery or post hospital discharge. But you're going to see more and more care delivered in the home. But in order to do that, you need caregivers. And in order to get caregivers, you got to pay them well. And that's
Right.
what we do. So I don't look at one when I go into any market. I look at why am I going to be successful in the whole market.
Right.
So when I did things with digital cellular, I said, okay, what is the whole market? The whole market is telecommunications, and that includes everything: digital, radio and television, and landline and whatnot. And we were just, everyone was saying, wow, the amps was the analog phone. The amps phone is only 2 million a year. I said, okay, great, but what is the total communications, including landline? It's huge. I said, well, if you could bring the cost down substantially, and I remember going both to AT&T and T and Motorola, and I
Hmm.
said, one day you will have a phone, and you won't be charged per the minute. You'll just get a buffet. And I got laughed at. Now, granted, this was 30 years ago, and I
Right.
remember being laughed at. I said, how old are you? You don't know anything. You're just a stupid kid. I
Right.
said, okay, well,
Yeah.
here we are.
Hmm.
Now, and this was a time when long distance was still like $1, and a half an hour, a minute.
Hmm.
And it was just coming, digital was just coming in. So the cost was dropping substantially. It was going low and low, but it was still expensive to make a telephone call. Now, I mean, where are you? Where are you? What part of the world?
Hmm.
Where are you located?
Right. Me.
Yeah.
Well, your voice is distorting. Um,
Oh, where are you located?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in Turkey right now. I keep on moving
Uh,
to different countries, but right
no,
now,
no,
yeah.
no. Which is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
30 years ago, a call to Turkey would be $3 a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's free.
Mm-hmm.
How can you beat free? You can't. We're talking. Not only do we have a call, we have video, which is also an amazing thing.
Yep. Yep.
So
And the virtual reality is coming, and maybe things would be even more different. The meta and virtual
I,
meetings.
I, I'm gonna. I think artificial intelligence is artificially inflated.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
True.
um, it's only as stupid as the person that programmed it. And being in technology a long time, there are a lot of stupid people out there. So you know, to be able to be creative, that when that happens, when something can generate something on its own, when it's cognizant of its own, we get a data from
Mm.
Star Trek, then I'll worry about it. Right now, it's cute. I mean, it has, it's not. I'm still remember 2001: Space Odyssey.
Hmm.
Dave, what are you doing? Yeah, and that wasn't even a what do you call it, a cognizant computer totally. It kind of knew what it was doing, but it was
Hmm.
more protective than anything else, and it had the Isaac Asimov, do no harm to evil, do no evil to humans. I don't know.
Right. Two things of this business: getting clients and hiring
Yeah,
people. How do you do
yeah.
it in short, briefly? What's the different
Well,
and effective way?
getting clients is all about the network. So our network that delivers clients to us, most of them are female. Most of them were CNAs or caregivers in their day when they were younger, and most of them know how, excuse my language, crappy caregivers get paid. I walk in and tell them how much we're paying. We get referrals all the time. It's like they don't, they're not allowed to just give one referral in their discharge, but we're always on the top. Hey, here's three, but this one pays more, and they have no minimums. So you don't need a contract. Guess who's going to get all the calls?
I see. So the caregivers themselves give you the clients. They don't. I wonder they don't want to. If, let's say I'm a caregiver and I know many clients. Why wouldn't I go direct with them instead of referring an agency?
Well, here's a you can't. We have, remember, I looked at the whole gestalt, and the whole gestalt is when you go to the hospital, get discharged to home health discharges you to home. You have three choices. Now, you only used to have really one, which was, or two. A family member would take care of you for a few weeks and then leave. Or you would use a private duty agency. They would refer you to, hey, here's private duty agency A, B, and C. And you call them up and they'd bring a caregiver in. A few people would hire their own, but that's super difficult. Even with all the big, you don't know if the caregiver is any good. There's a lot of risks associated, and there is. So 20 years ago, hiring your own, it happened. A friend could refer somebody and that happened, right? But the vast majority of care was direct to a private duty agency. And so the differentiation from one private duty agency to another, none
Hmm.
really. There's not, none, there's none. They're not paying their caregivers anymore. They have a name.
Hmm.
So when you get recommended, it's just a list. Now, because we pay our caregivers so much more and we don't have minimums and we have a driving service and a cleaning service, they're more comfortable
Hmm.
referring to us.
Right.
So
Right.
other agencies in the spectrum of caregiving, the clinical side, we're considered non-clinical. Some people like to say it non-skilled, and I don't. That's the other thing. Caregivers are skilled.
Hmm.
You don't need a nursing degree to be skilled. They
Hmm.
have skills that I'll never possess. So that's where we get all our clients. I mean, it's by referrals. And essentially, because we're so good at getting referrals, we remember it's all about cost. We do no advertising at all. None.
Okay. Okay.
It's all word of mouth.
Okay. Don't
Don't
you
need
think?
to.
Don't you think you won't be able to scale that by the pace that you could scale if you did some other advertising or some other way?
No,
Okay.
caregiving is hyper local. There's no benefit. It. in my career, one thing, even though I'm an electrical engineer, I got really good at sales and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
When people separate the two, they tend to go in two different directions. Hello,
Yeah.
Anheuser-Busch. Um, when you, when you do a bad marketing campaign, it could critically hurt your bottom line.
Mm.
So the one thing I have found out is no amount of advertising is going to increase sales at all. And the reason why, you
Mm.
have to look at why do people use caregiving. And usually when you get a caregiver, you're not happy, but you don't want to do it again. It's a single event upset. When you get like my mom, I had a caregiver for my mom once. I hired twice. So it was in DC, hired the wrong agency, moved her down the hill, hired another one. That's twice. And at the end, I hired my own caregiver. And that's what got me to where I am. So most people are not, you'll hire fewer caregivers than you'll buy houses or cars
Mm-hmm.
or insurance, even though it's going to cost you a lot more in the long run. But weirdly, nobody has any expertise in doing this. So you're only going to be looking when you need it. When mom fell or dad got a heart attack or you know some I like to call it a single event upset happened that now you need a caregiver and you didn't before. You weren't even thinking about it, not
Mm.
even a little.
Mm.
So now family comes together. There's a panic. I need something, and that window of opportunity is very very small. So usually, and so that's why the referral network is so important to us. They are going to get, they're going to go into hospital because everybody knows what a hospital is. And then the hospital is going to refer to what's a home health. They don't know. Nobody knows what home health is. That's a referral. And then very few people know what private duty care is. So the home health then says, hey, our cert period's up. You still need a caregiver. Go and use this agency. That's how we do it. It's that
Right.
simple. It's knowing the stream and just sticking there's a lot of fish in there. Just stick your hand in and pull some fish out. And that's what we do.
And how do you scale your caregiver network, by hospital or any other way?
No, 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 no. We already have that. We have, like I said, we have 75,000 caregivers in our system with our sister company called Keep Safe Care Direct that we allow people to hire their own caregivers,
Right.
individuals, and we have a system that does that. So you could be your private duty of one. We also recruit for numerous organizations throughout the country. So
Okay.
we don't mind them, and we're a fraction of the cost of Indeed and Glassdoor and ZipRecruiter. So because we
Right.
have so many caregivers, we want them to get jobs.
Right.
We're going to one day be the de facto site of caregivers coming on our system.
How did you made this huge number of caregiver database?
It, excuse me, it took 7 years,
Okay.
and it was originally the software was designed to help private duty agencies become more effective to save some costs. And again, I'm an engineer, so as an engineer, you do something called a gap analysis, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the gap analysis is you go in and you look at operations and you're saying, wow, you spend 80% of all your money doing this one thing. How can we fix this one thing? How can we, how can we cut cost out of that?
Mm.
Well, that thing that was really expensive for them, and it still is caregiving, recruitment, management, and curation. Still is, it hasn't changed in 10 years. Amazing.
Mm.
They're still using the same tools they used 20 years ago. Now, there are more recruitment sites out there. So there's more places where you can recruit, but they're still using, you know, I place a job, I wait for someone to reply to a job, I interview them or a bunch of them. They may or may not show up for the interview. I do a job, I come in, they're going to have to do orientation. I mean, it is an incredibly inefficient way to do things. I go to the client's house and do a assessment, an intake, and it's amazing how little they value their time. They waste, well, they waste a lot of time and money in the process. And what I've done is streamlined it tremendously. So much so that in Austin we have a reputation when they call it a parade of caregivers, and old people hate getting a new person in their home all the time. And we're really good in having stable caregivers. The same caregiver goes to the same place over and over and over again.
Mm.
And we usually don't have to raise our rates too much because we're paying our caregivers. So if it goes up any increase will go directly to the caregiver, and that's what we explained to them.
Hmm.
So when we had to change the regime and our oil prices doubled, we implemented what's called a trip fee, and none of our clients had a problem with that because that went 100% to the caregiver. So I didn't raise our hourly rate. I just said, hey, they're going to have to drive out there. You got to help offset their gas, and they had no problem with that. And that goes 100% to the caregiver.
Right, right, right. I see. Interesting. You also have background in software, I think. If I, let's say, ignore your profile on LinkedIn or the details I have about you, I would say you're more a logical, like an engineer, yeah, as you said, like a think.
Yep.
Your thinking style is like an engineer. Um, Anything you want to say about the software experience you had? I have some questions, but I would want you to say first.
I, I will say this: it is really hard to find a good software company.
True.
And the reason why, people call it full stack or front end or back end, to have somebody that can integrate what they call full stack, which is the customer facing part of your software and then the actual app of your
Mm.
software.
Mm-hmm.
There are very few companies that are good at both, and they usually, and if they usually most companies separate the two, so they have someone that's really good on .NET or some other, you know database software, and then someone that's really good in the front end, whatever the front is, WordPress or whatever
Mm.
you call
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's cleaved themselves off. They see the front end as marketing and sales, and the back
Mm.
end is engineering, and you can't do that if you if again.
Yeah.
I when I went to school, the best thing I ever learned was Boolean algebra, and the reason why Boolean algebra was wonderful, they taught you something called state machines. And a state machine is you get everything down to its distilled state when you're doing where are all the things where I'll end up and how do I get there? It's literally a map of a process. So everything I do, I map it out. I like say I'm at A and how do I get to M in the shortest distance possible? And a lot of people have zigzags and they don't really know how to get from A to M. And
Mm-hmm.
they stop at, B or E, and they don't know that, oh, I could go to E to M. No, you can't. It's really difficult to do that. There's a way to do it. So thinking logically on all they call them use cases. When you do that, you have to think of how's the customer using it and how it will be implemented in the back end. And if you disassociate those two things, you're not going to have a really good product. So case in point, with what we did, we decided to not do a mobile app initially. And the reason why, it adds a new layer of things. So everything's just on the internet, HTML5, which is
Mm.
great, but we don't have a mobile app. And the reason why we didn't have a mobile app, wasn't quite sure how it would be used. And so now we have figured out the only people who need a mobile app are caregivers logging their hours
Mm-hmm.
and electronic verification of when they come in. That's it.
Mm.
So my customers really don't need a mobile app. They never will need a mobile app because they tend to be older and they tend to have either a laptop or a tablet,
Mm.
and they'll work online. So having a mobile for them and a small screen.
Right. Right.
Okay, great. I mean, you really watch movies on a small screen? No,
Mm.
it's not. You might, but no, it's too small. And there's a backlash now of people. It's so small, I can't do anything with it. Even with the big screens, it's still small. I'd rather have a big. My business partner, she has three big ass monitors on her
Mm-hmm.
desk.
Mm.
Yeah, she wants that and a keyboard. She's not on her cell phone or remote. They're really smart things, but
Right.
bigger is better, as they say.
Mm. If you want to, let's say, make a product, what would be your outsourcing or insourcing strategy for the developer or the agency? How would you take it if you want? Let's say you want to make a big application, right?
Well, the first thing I do is I look and see if there's a need, and
Mm.
I
Yeah.
always call it like the back of the napkin. And every startup, I've done 10 startups,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them have been successful, some of them have been a failure, not because the market wasn't there, we couldn't get the funding to get it to where it needed to be, which is fine. So on the back of the napkin, you figure out, here's my cost, here's what I could sell it for, I think, and here's where I call it the critical mass product. So with us, this is the process that I did. When I'm going to start selling licenses, I have to tell the people I sell to, how many hours a week do you need to get with clients to break even? If I break even, you're cash flow neutral. It pays for all your expenses. And from there on, you're going to make profit. And we know it's between 210 and 230 hours a week, which if you look at it, if the average client is 20 hours, which roughly is, you need 10 clients. So you go backwards. It's you get 10 clients or you get 200 some hours, you're breaking even. Everything after that, you're making money. So that's how I look at it. Is it a viable business? And how is they call it the
Viable
minimum
product.
critical mass. It's a
Okay.
minimum, not, it's
Okay.
the minimum critical mass. And the minimum critical mass is, at what point
Hmm.
will I be alive forever?
Right. Right.
So I could go. So I look backwards. Everyone says, "Oh, the market's huge." Yeah, I know the market's huge, but I'm looking at it from, you know, how do I play in that market with a
Mm-hmm.
lot of different people? And this was the strategy that you made. Also, I didn't want to get VC money,
Mm-hmm.
and the reason why, they have other people's money, and they're going to tell you how to run your business, and they don't know an effing thing about my business.
Right.
They have no clue. So instantly it would change the whole dynamic of going forward. And if you look at all the great visionaries, they had their product way along before someone came in and tried to goof it up. And
Mm.
so I'm the reason why we're selling licenses is that I'm doing crowdsourcing. So I sell a license for $1,000 a month.
Mm.
I get 20 people. I got funding.
Right.
To, it's done. I mean, and it spreads the risk and it also spreads the reward. So the average private duty agency in the United States does about $2.5 million a year in net in gross revenue, and they take home between 80 and 120. The owner. We're going
Mm.
to change that. If one of our licensees is doing 2.5, the owner's taking home 400K.
Okay. Okay.
That's a big difference.
Let's say you sorted out all the things, the market, the calculations. How would you assemble a team of software developers?
I don't outsource. Do not hire anybody.
Okay.
You're just, and here's the reason why. Every person that you bring into your company as a employee
Mm.
increases the chance of your failure.
Okay.
And I don't want a big staff. I'd rather. And here's the reason why. You hire somebody, you're going to have to pay that person 6 months to a year.
Mm-hmm.
So the minute you start to need a team, you're going to need a lot of money.
Right.
And the minute you need a lot of money, you no longer have a team, because forces outside of you are going to control that. So my philosophy is, if you get a really good idea, paper it out, put all the state machines. That's a lot of work. Put all the state machines, and then go and find a really good programming company. And we have a really good one. It took us third time's the charm, to find one, and we finally got one. And my concerns when I spoke to her, the name of the company is Project Balance. So I spoke to her. I said, "Look, I'm not worried about the market. I'm not worried about being successful in the market. I only have one fear: you can't do the software." And I
Mm-hmm.
said, "I've had two companies. I've written everything out, and they still couldn't do it." I mean, literally, I was sitting with the developers. They couldn't figure out how to do this, and I'm like, "Really? Do I need to learn how to do .NET? Because it just doesn't seem that hard." No. And when you find that company,
Mm-hmm.
they're worth the weight in gold. Also, you got to find a good lawyer, because in the United States you need contracts, and a good software development team. If you're doing software or you're doing any type of design, find good designers. Don't hire. And then once you get big enough, you hire a CIO or a CTO, and
Right.
they manage the relationship. But
Mm.
outsource if you can. It's just, that's not my core competency. My core competency is not software development. My core competency is caregiver management.
Right.
And you got to know what your core competency. I had a partner before. She was a nurse and she wanted us to be a health tech company. I said, no. we'll never be a health tech company. That isn't what we do.
Right.
In one of the iterations, I said, we'll never be a health tech company. And I'm a technologist, and like I'd be the first one to say, yeah, we don't make anything.
Hmm.
We're a service company,
Okay.
pure and
Okay.
simple.
Okay. You
I will never be known as Dr. Fry. So that's
you don't mind the agency charging you too much. Of course, they will be keeping their cut and then giving the salaries to the developers or running away. I mean, they have the insights of your software, and let's say they disappear. Okay, they don't disappear. Companies don't do that usually, but they find a better client than you, higher paying client, and they shift your developers allocated to your
uh,
and to the other. I see that happening as well. Rare,
yeah,
but it
absolutely.
does happen.
But the difference is, I got the software company to invest in us, and so part of that investment, and this is I don't want to think called the genius of it. Um, I also did it when they invested. If we fail, they own the software. I already have that in the contract. But
Mm,
when we're successful, I pay for the software, and we're going to be successful. And so they don't have access to it anymore. So part of the deal was I mitigated their risk.
I see.
And most startup people get greedy. They get stupidly greedy. And they say, no, I don't want to give this up. And it's too important to me. The software is worth nothing if we're not successful to me.
True.
I wasted a lot of time. They could sell it because they've learned a lot of tricks on it, but
Mm,
they want us. They invest in us, so they have a built-in effort that they want to see us successful.
true.
So when we pay them. We pay them every month for their development, but the big hit is down the road, and they know that. So they're willing to take the ride with us,
Hmm.
and they give us. They're not the cheapest, but they're definitely not the most expensive.
Got it.
And that's the other thing is that you have to do your research.
Good
It's like,
idea.
oh, I'm going to buy a car. I got to do my research.
Hmm.
And, when I first did it, I hired a company in Austin who will remain, unnamed, and they were okay,
Hmm.
but they never did what I really want to do. And they never understood what we were trying to do.
Right.
And it became a disaster. In the end, it didn't work. It worked okay, but it
Hmm.
never worked fully. So because it never worked fully, it kind of, you know, interfered with our sales. And then they started telling us how to run our business.
Right.
And I was like, this isn't going to work.
Right. Right. How much do you think a decent company should charge, or what are the, or what are you paying per hour or per resource per developer?
Well, I can't remember my bill, but our monthly rate for all the development is somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 a month. It's not huge.
Okay.
The original build was about 200K to get what we call the minimal viable product, and that took 6 months to develop.
Okay.
But it got us into the business. Like, this is the other thing. You're never going to have a product that is 100% correct. Just get that out of your mind. So if you're good enough, get it out there. And if you make mistakes, great. Everyone's, and we test it, but there's going to be, what is the saying? Plans the uh, the best plan ever made will work until you get punched in the nose, and then everything changes because I don't know. I didn't know how people would use it. I had a theory, and I could have wasted a lot of money doing marketing research. No, the best market research is actually put it into the market. And yes, will we lose some customers? Absolutely. Will they be invaluable to us on insights? Absolutely. Huge market, not worried. And most people don't understand this. To be wildly successful, you only need 3% of the market.
Hmm.
3%. That's it. 3% of the market. So in our market, in the entire US market, there are 8% of all adults are over 65. And that's growing, and by 2030, it's supposed to be 9%.
Hmm.
So even if I had 100% of that market, it's 9%. I don't need 100% of that market. If I have 1% of the market, so that's 1% of all, I'm making $10 billion a year.
Right.
That's
Right.
huge.
Right. Right.
Everybody says, oh, I need, 50% of the market. No, you'll never
Hmm.
get 50% of the market. Those days are long gone. companies like, Pennsylvania Railroad had that, and Getty Oil had it way back in the day, and AT&T had it. Google has it now, sort of, but getting that big of a market and anything you do, really difficult to do. So
Hmm.
you might do it if you're a first mover in a growing market, but don't people think the wrong way. People think, oh, every customer is important. They should be, but there are some customers you don't want, and they're going to be
Hmm.
more of a learning experience than anything else.
Important
In
point.
a big growing market, make mistakes. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. You're going to.
Hmm. Okay. So 5K to 10K per developer, is that what you were paying to that company?
No, five K to 10K per month. The
To
developers are, I can't remember what their rates are, but we have developers. This company has developers all over the world. They have a Mexico. Most of the developers are out of South Africa,
mm-hmm.
incredibly,
Mm-hmm.
where Elon Musk came from. He is not one of our developers.
Right. Right.
They have them in Cyprus. One's in Sweden.
Okay.
They have one in India. That's the
Mm-hmm.
other thing, is that India is not the panacea that everybody makes it out to be. They're getting better at it, but it's still, you have a different time zone,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the problem. Having somebody in a different time zone is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of even a lot of places in the United States, you can get cheap developers. Everybody goes out to California. That's the most expensive place to get a developer. That
Right.
in New York.
Right.
Walk away. There
Hmm.
are plenty. There are plenty of good developers in Iowa, Kansas. Places that are 1/10 the cost
Right.
of living.
Right. How much? Give the audience some kind of cost estimate. How much they should expect if they move to U.S. or hire from U.S. or they're living in U.S. but they're not
Well,
unaware of the
it,
rates.
it depends. People, that's the other thing that happens. Everyone makes monolithic decisions. When they say, let's have Chinese food. Well, you know how big China is? You know how many regions they have food? It's like, let's have Mexican food. No, there's a bunch of different types of Mexican. Let's have American food. Even in the United States, you have Southern cooking, you have New England cooking, and even in New England cooking, you have seafood, and they have beef cooking. It's a variety of things.
Yeah.
So it's the same in software.
Right.
So if you want to pay the highest price you're going to ever want to pay, go to California, go
Right.
to San Francisco.
Yeah.
You will, or New York. You will
Hmm.
pay. I would have paid 5 times as much and not gotten as good a product.
Hmm.
Matter of fact, the company that I work with was doing work for a New York company as a contractor,
Hmm.
and they were 3 times more expensive than them doing software for somebody else. If they had just and they would if they had just gone to them, I mean, they couldn't, of course. They were like, man, we're 1/3 of what they're charging, and these people don't know what they're doing, and they didn't. They didn't know what they're doing, and you know the the lady I was working with says, man, they're going to make a mistake on this. This isn't going to work the way it's supposed to. And I keep trying to tell them that, but nope. Again, they had front end people trying to design the back end,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
they didn't know what they're doing.
Why not hire
The
from?
premise
Yeah.
of what they were working was disjointed.
Right. Sorry to interrupt you. Why not hire from India or Ukraine or other countries? Ignore the time zone difference if that's
Yep.
the only thing. But other than that, why not?
You need somebody in the States that understands your business. They don't understand your business. They don't, they can't, it, 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 you need someone that's close to the customer. So if they're out of India, here's a case in point. The same company got a big contract in Austin,
Okay.
and the company, all their developers were out of India. They didn't know what the hell they were doing. They still don't know. They had no program manager at all.
Hmm.
They don't understand program management
Right.
at all. And program management is, measure twice, cut once. Couldn't do it. It's like, and she would come out and tell me a lot of times, oh God, I have this thing in Austin that's they're not working on it anymore because the company that they were working with just they they were making a ton of money and they didn't hire the people that really needed to get this project done. And the project is a year late. And she said, I'm tired of beating my head. I'm going to go and do something that I enjoy. This is not, and they won some award and everything like that. It's a big transportation deal in Austin, but
Hmm.
still haven't finished it. And it was just a database collection, and they're creating a data lake. And they're like, wow. And these were people from, granted they're out of LA, that's where the headquarters are, but they hired mostly Indian people. And
Right.
excuse me,
Right.
and they just couldn't get it right. You had to go 3 or 4 times around with them because they didn't understand what the client wanted. They were putting it. They didn't understand the
Hmm.
business rules behind it.
Got it.
And if you don't
So,
get that
mhm.
with a programmer, they just write code.
Right. Right.
It's like, oh, here's a coloring book. Color this in any way you want to see it. No, I really got to know, what colors go where and why. What am I trying to do? And that
Hmm.
is, it's
Hmm.
not like mowing the lawn. Even with mowing the lawn, you got to tell people, I want it edged here. I want you to trim the bushes. There's a lot of things you have to do. It's just not cutting grass anymore.
Right.
You have some. Doing software. If you don't have a good program manager,
Right.
you're going to fail.
Right.
Quote unquote, an engineer,
Hmm.
you're going to fail. You're going to fail.
Hmm. So it's more about the culture they have,
Yeah,
mentality.
they're totally capable of doing software. It's
Hmm.
just that you're not close to the customer,
True.
and you can't. They don't push back on the customer in the sense of saying, okay, you want this?
Hmm.
Why do you want this?
Hmm.
What is it gonna? What's the end result? Why do you want us to do this? Please let us know,
Hmm.
because what else does it affect? It's amazing how people don't see the unintended consequences of change.
Hmm.
And by that is that when you make a change in your software, where's it going to affect everything? Remember, state machines. I'm gonna instead of doing it method A, I'm going to do it method T. Well, where did method A touch everything? Where
Right.
are the cascading effects?
Hmm.
It's insane that people don't do that. If
Hmm.
we make a change in our software that affects things, I have to go through every state machine. I have to go through every condition and say, okay, this is how it's going to look different here. It's also going to affect this here. Is it going to affect the billing? Is it going to affect the payroll? I have to look at all the things that it's going to affect
Hmm.
and go through it. People don't do that. It's insane how
Right.
even
Right.
before they start, they don't go through all the state as they call it, the business cases or use cases. And you got to do that. You got to write them all down. It's your blue. It's like building a house without a blueprint. It can be
True.
done. Will
True.
it be a good house? I didn't expect my lights to be on the side of the on the side of the wall, or have no outlets or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, it's good
Right.
to have a blueprint.
Okay. Any other reason why those people are not, preferred? Those countries are.
Um, they're preferred because they used to be inexpensive.
Hmm.
India now has a huge middle class, so they aren't as cheap as they used to be.
Yeah.
Um, the cost differentiation, not that big anymore. And if I could tell your people, there's a thing called total cost of ownership.
Yeah.
And when I used to do branding on my own, and I did some, I had an outrageously high rate, and it was like $500 an hour, but your total cost was going to be $5,000. And they're like, "What?" I said, "How much do they charge it? Like 50?" They said, "Yeah." Well, and they're saying it'll take you 3 months to get. Yeah, I'll be done in 2 weeks.
Right.
Like, what? I said, "Yeah, my rate is astronomical, but I'm really good at it." So they're like, "Yeah, but $500. Don't look at $500 an hour. Look at my full cost, $5,000. I'll be done in 2 weeks."
Hmm.
Yeah, but they have this whole team and everything. Yeah, I know, because they're not good.
Right.
They have all these people that are supporting average work, right? Go and go with average.
Hmm.
And I would just tell them I'm not negotiable, and they would come back to me after they spent that $50,000. Said, "Man, they don't know what they're doing." Yeah. So in a week, I'd have something for them. And, oh, my rate just went up, by the way,
Hmm.
because now it's a rush job.
I see. I see. I'll be
So
coming
you
to the
pay for
marketing
what you
part.
get. You pay for what you get. Don't
Hmm.
always look at the cheapest price.
True. True. Very, very interesting insights. I appreciate your vision, the way you think. I'll be coming to the marketing side. So um, for the offshore guys, if they had a good manager who understands the business, the culture, or the expectations, who would be in close communication with the client, things might be different. Uh,
Might be,
might be
might
different.
be.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely need and the other mistake that I see a lot with developers, there's no one with an X on their back.
X.
You need an X. It means the guy that's going to be, or girl, lady, that's going to be ultimate responsible for all the F ups. In other words, that
Okay.
person, there's got to be one person that makes the decisions, and it falls on him or her.
Right.
I, the number one thing, and this happened with the here, they had three bosses.
Hmm.
And there's an old saying, you cannot serve two masters. You
True.
can only serve one. So when there's more than one person
Yeah.
making decisions,
Yeah.
oh, that's a recipe that's going to be
Yeah.
too many chefs spoil the broth.
Hmm. Hmm.
You need one person, period. And that one person's got to be good. If
Yeah.
that one person isn't good, they'll be a failure. Case in point, Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was the guy. He was the one person.
Yeah.
Always fell on his back.
Right.
He would delegate to people, but ultimately, if it was a failure or success, he owned it, and he did own it, and he took credit for it too. But he owned it. When he made
Hmm.
mistakes, he was not happy with himself, and he made tons of mistakes.
Hmm. That
Yeah,
enlightens
what
me.
was it? The X something he had next computer or something. That was a disaster. It was not what he went to the well too many times.
Right.
But
Right.
Pixar turned out pretty well, but it took a while.
Hmm. That enlightens me now. Now I realize why, because I also sell offshore software and marketing services. So why
Yep.
the reasons of the good things and the bad things, I never let control go out of my hands. I was
Yes.
always managing the projects. Okay. Or overseeing the projects.
Or
Anyway.
you're the one that's ultimately responsible. One
Yeah.
person has to be
Yeah.
ultimately responsible,
Hmm.
whatever that person is. But it
True.
all goes to that person that says, "No, this isn't what our this is." And that person usually always remembers what the goal is. What is it trying to do?
True.
And the other thing, ugh, feature creep, which is like, oh, we could just code this new. No, nope. This is what we said, and we're going to do this. Let's get this done first before we put new features on.
Right.
But
Right.
and that's why your product never gets released. And I worked in semiconductors, and they used to say, system on a chip. And I said, there'll never be a system on the chip. They said, why? Because as soon as you think you have a system, the system gets bigger. So now you have a part of a system. And it keeps getting
Hmm.
bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until you make this ginormous chip that is like, instead of orchestra having individual instruments in concert, you now
Hmm.
have one instrument playing all the things together. So I'd always say, careful with system on a chip. May not be the best way to design.
Right.
So,
Right. Marketing. Any words on marketing?
wow. Do you have like a month?
Right.
Marketing is all about, everybody, when they do marketing, they try to sell the whole cow
Hmm.
instead of selling not just a steak, but a steak that's cooked and just a piece of steak, a bite.
Hmm.
So the best way that you could sell at market is bite size. People do not like complex ideas. So I'm going to come back to this, latest thing that they did with this beer product. It's beer. People know beer. I want beer. I like beer. Drinking beer. That's it. When you put a complex product around it that you're trying to push something other than beer,
Hmm.
why am I? No, I just want beer. Give me good beer. Don't tell me. Don't lecture to me. Wow. I mean, that is going to be if it isn't already, if you're in an MBA class, how not to market. Do not annoy your customers, your existing customers that
Hmm.
they buy habitually and unconsciously. You now made them think. And when you make customers think about your product, good or bad, you've opened up a window to make a choice.
Right.
You've opened up a window to make a choice. They may not choose you.
Hmm.
And
Interesting.
so when you market, if there's an existing colossus out there, case in point, when I was in the semiconductor world and digital signal processing came out, boy, I'm really aging myself. And Texas Instruments was the leader. They made a really good programmable DSP. And I'm like, man, they're like 800-pound gorilla. And they literally had 80% of the market. Now, in the programmable market, we made something that this name did not exist. I called it hardwired DSP. I actually made a new category. And the reason why I made a new category is because now I could say we were the number one provider in hardwired DSP along with Texas Instruments. So I had it was Harris at the time. Harris and Texas Instruments in the DSP were number one. Our sales were 1/100th of TI's, but I could say I was number one. And because I could always be associated with TI, our brand increased. People would look at us. Oh, what is hardwired DSP? We always thought DSP was programmable. And it was to that point. We changed it. And what happened? In 2.5 years, we went from $800,000 a year to over 60 million in sales and half of the profit of the company.
Right.
And it was all because I would show people the benefits of using hardwired over programmable. It was a lot less overhead. We had a whole bunch of reference designs, and it does the exact same thing as a programmable one, but at a fraction of the cost. And you didn't have to buy a software stack, and you didn't have to buy royalties. And it was bada bing, bada boom, you're gone.
Hmm.
And it was faster, and it used less power. I mean, there was a lot of benefits to it, but you had to change your thinking a little bit. Oh, I didn't have to program anymore. And programming DSPs back in the day was not a straightforward thing.
Hmm.
You had to know what you were doing. It's gotten better, but back then it wasn't that good. So I don't know, but that's marketing. I'm not changing anything. I'm not. Here's I'll give another good example. I used to work for AMD, not very long, but I worked for them, and AMD always wanted to beat Intel in the PC market. They made a processor, the K5, K6. They changed the name. I can't remember what it is. And here's where marketing and sales goes together. I knew what they were doing was stupid. And the reason why I knew what they're doing is stupid is because I knew the PC market with semiconductors was going to be dwarfed by, the communications market. So everyone thought PCs would get more and more and more and more and more powerful, right? They get more memory and more. Yeah, that's true. But where all the computing was going to be done is in the cloud. So knowing that, and cloud hadn't been invented yet, the internet was just coming out. But I knew distributed networking of computing power was going to be the wave of the future. The reason why is because you had Hewlett Packard versus IBM. IBM was big iron, right? You had a mainframe, and and Hewlett Packard bet that they would have distributing computing. They would have the same more power in the network than a standalone device. They were right. So knowing that where the market was going, not where the market is, as Wayne Gretzky says, you want to be where the puck is gonna be. I said, hey, we really should be focusing this processor on communications. And they're like, what? And I actually had, a big discussion with Clardy, who was the CEO at the time. I said, you're never going to beat Intel, but you could beat Motorola. Now, Motorola at the time was the lead in communications. They had a really good communications DSP, but they didn't know what to do with it. It was kind of a generic thing. I said, if you take this engine that you have, the K5 and K6, and put it into a DSP, you will lead the communications market. And that communications market will be you'll sell 100 times more semiconductors than you're selling processors now. I literally told them the PC market, as you see it, the desktop market is gone. You're going to have laptops which are mobile. You're going to have, cellular phones. I didn't know the iPhone would be made, but I said there'll be more computing power in that mobile device than you'll have on your desktop now. But that mobile device needs to connect with another processor somewhere. So focus on getting that processor to be able to talk with other processors mobilely, both landline and wireless.
Hmm.
And he looked at me like I had 6 heads on my shoulder. He says, you're nuts.
Hmm.
Oh, let's fast forward 30 years. And I actually also told them, because they hired me from Philips, because broadband was just coming out. We did not have cable modems yet. DSL had just Peargain had just put their thing, and there was a company in Tuscan. It's Broadcom was just starting to put out broadband products, which were essentially copying the products that I've made for Philips. Needless to say, Broadcom is a $1 billion a year semiconductor company that was a nothing company when they did $5 million. I remember when I went to this with Clarity, I said broadband's going to be it. It's going to change the whole landscape. It's going to be the railroad of the communication age, of the PC age.
Mm-hmm.
And he said no. And he said, well, what would you do? I said, me, I would spin off a company that focuses only on communications with your K5 and K6. And he goes, why? You're going to compete with me? No, I'm not. No, we won't. We're going to be in communications. You're going to be in computers. I will be a bigger company than you. Well, they said no. 5 years later, they spun off Legarity. It was too late. Market had already, it was 2 generations gone. They needed to do it 5 years earlier.
Mm.
That's the problem. You've got to see windows of opportunity. Now, new windows will come up, of course, but they didn't take it. And so, here's a case in point. I went back to my buddy who was at AMD, and here's marketing. You remember when they had Intel Inside,
Mm-hmm.
the branding, that they would show Intel Inside with the PC.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like 2.5, 3 years later. I said, okay, this is what you should do. Start with it, imagine this. And I went in there and I kind of did a whiteboard for it. Imagine this commercial. You start with, at AMD, we like thinking out of the box, but you show an Intel inside of the box. And so people are, what are they talking about? And so as you span out, you get bigger and bigger. We connect all the computing power in your home or your office. You see little, emeralds in the sky with all the connections of where AMD has surrounded the box. I haven't changed the thing about your company. I just changed how people perceive your company.
Right.
That's marketing.
Mm.
And the guy goes, God, that's great. I could never sell it. I know. But you paid me a lot of money 3 years ago. This is the least I can do. I went back to it. And then he tried to sell it. 6 months later, he left the company, started his own company. I said, this will put you on the map. Trust me. You're not changing anything, just changing the focus of what you're doing. You're a communications company. You're not a PC company. You're not a processing company anymore. Nobody cares about processors. I mean, that's what it was. Company. Everyone thought the vast majority of Americans were technologically savvy. We've proven that not to be the case the last 3 years, by the way. So they're not. They don't know anything about technology, but they know benefits. Oh, I need something that I could hook up no matter where I am. Yeah, they understand. They don't care about the technology. They just care about what benefit it gives them. So that's the other thing about marketing.
I'm enjoying the conversation. I mean, it's a mixture of intelligence, approach, experience. Okay.
It's just observation. One of my
Yeah.
heroes is Ben Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
But not only Ben Franklin, but Mark Twain. Both of them lived non-traditional lives.
Mm.
Ben Franklin was the America's first millionaire, which very few people realize. But boy, he was a pain in the butt when he was a kid. He was so brilliant that he actually had his Puritan schoolmaster grab him, box him by the ears, and say, Benjamin, we know you're the smartest person in the room. You don't have to prove it to everybody. Even your friends are getting annoyed with you. And at that moment, he was so humbled and thought so well of him, he vowed never to disagree with another person in his life. So when he heard somebody say something that he knew was wrong, he says, boy, I didn't know that. Let me go and research it. I thought something was different. I might have been wrong. He never told that person they were wrong. He said he was wrong. Incredibly, he said 90% of the time that they would go and research it. I said, oh, Ben, by the way, you were right. No, really? I didn't know that. He says, yes, I went and looked it up. I was mistaken. I thought this happened, but thank you so much for educating me. That's why he was so good. He literally, in my mind, was the Merlin of the Americas. He made America happen. Not that he was out in front, but he was the guy making all these people out in front come together. And that's leadership. That is leadership. And of course, he invented a hell of a lot of stuff. The Franklin stove, the the Weather Vane, the post office, the lending library, uh, Toll House cookies. When Toll House cookies came because of that. He also was the first meteorologist. He charted the Gulf Stream. The dude was amazing, and did Old Farmer's Almanac. There was never a better Renaissance man in the history of America. Oh, and at the same time, he helped all those guys that framed the Constitution in his spare time. Really? What a man. I can't even hold a candle to that person, but I aspired to be like him.
Got it. Um,
So,
I
you got
would.
to have heroes. You got to have people that you look up to, and
Hmm.
you don't have heroes. There's. Why does everybody like superheroes? Because they're aspirational.
I would wrap it in the next 10 minutes. It's too much time of yours, but I am enjoy. I would like to go for 2 3 more hours, but I respect the time.
I don't have
Uh,
enough coffee.
okay, okay, okay. So briefly, if you want to talk about any of your experience in theater uh, and stealth acquisition of companies, you have this experience. I read that in your profile. Fashion and theater, and low cost medication. These three topics, but it's your choice. What you want to say about these experiences?
You mean you mean in theater? You mean like movie theaters, things like that?
Yeah, you had some experience on that, I think,
Well, yeah. Well, um,
in the past.
movies essentially. So way back in the day, I when Blockbuster still was in existence. Wow, I'm really aging myself. I invented Redbox was coming out with DVD rentals, or yeah, DVDs were just becoming popular then. I'd actually invented a robot that could hold 7,800 DVDs, but that wasn't what I wanted to do. Remember, I knew wireless was going to be a big thing, and I knew phones were getting more and more powerful. So I proposed a patent that allowed you to download a movie from the kiosk.
Mm-hmm.
So it was going to be in a grocery store, and I'd walk in and I'd buy my movie. Now, even with wireless, it's going to take 5 minutes to download. As long as I was in the store, the movie would download. So I'd go and buy my movie and do my shopping, and by the end, my movie would be there. It'd be
Mm.
in my phone. But the important thing was not the movies. That was I didn't care about the movies. That was like the free cheese. What was important is I had the relationship with Frito Lay's that you could print a coupon out and you get Pepsi and Fritos right behind you. I created an end cap in the store because knowing the movies were just bait to get you to buy the stuff that made them all their profit was end caps.
Mm.
So understanding, and actually, I had a contract for 37 stores and a VC that is no longer in existence. Convinced our lead investor, who I will remain nameless, he was going to give us $6 million not to invest.
Okay.
So I said, "That's it." I mean, I can't get any better than that. So now I have an wealthy individual who's going to invest, and the leading VC that no longer is in Austin poo-pooing it. So that means it's going to be they'll always go. If I went to Sand Hill Road, they'll call this guy and say, "Hey, what do you think?" Well, I told him not to do it. Well, he did tell the person that was going to invest in a company called Stack Tech, and I told the guy, I said, "Look, fine, don't invest with me, but do not put your money in a U.S. chip manufacturer for memory." He
Mm.
goes, "Why?" I said, "Well, I have 20 years experience of this. The Koreans, the Japanese, and the Chinese will destroy you. They will lower the price, so this company will go out of business." Oh, and guess what? They're not regulated by the federal government. And the tariffs doesn't matter because they're going to put it in product that's manufactured in China. So they're taking stuff and putting, don't do it. He did it. The last, this was 20 years ago. About 18 years ago, I saw Stack Tech was lost 95% of its value.
Mm.
So he lost 95% of that $6 million. If he invested with me, Redbox, who was our biggest competitor, got bought for $1.5 billion.
Mm.
So you tell me. I'm like,
Right.
fine, this isn't my last idea.
Right.
I have plenty of ideas rattling in my
Right.
head. I just
Right.
have to pick one.
Right. Uh,
So
just
fashion,
like.
you want fashion? Fashion's tough.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why fashion's tough, it's mercurial and it isn't sustainable. Um, the what you hope for in fashion is you get good enough that a big house buys you out and other people do all the designs. And
Okay.
and fashion sells well in Europe, and the reason why it sells well in Europe is because nobody owns anything. People don't own houses in Europe. People don't own cars. So what they do is food, clothing, and vacations. In the United States, fashion's a little more difficult. You know, the very high end like it because they want to be European or elites or whatever.
Hmm.
But fashion, it's tough now. Also, there's a lot of strata. Who are you? Whom are you selling to? Are you selling to the lower end? I I I, I read a story about Shaquille O'Neal, and I heard him speak about this. And that one time, you know, he was playing. He'd come out with I think Adidas did his brand shoe, and it was $100. And this woman yells out to him in a game. He says, you know, hey, why are you charging so much for tennis shoes? And Shaq's like, you know, it was a $50 million contract. And I'm like, he's like, I don't make the shoes. What the hell? He says, why don't you make more affordable shoes for kids? You know, you're supposed to be and so the, you know, Shaq had some money, you know, in his pocket. He gave it here. Says, I don't want your money. I want you to make it so kids can afford your shoes. He canceled he finished the contract out with Adidas that year. He went to Walmart and he designed shoes with Walmart between 14 and $25. So that's fashion, right? That's fashion with a brand name. Now it's easier to sell fashion when you have somebody that, you know, Air Jordans or Shaquille O'Neal, or you have the earbuds with Dr. Dre. It's easier to sell fashion when you have a celebrity. Celebrities are falling out of favor now bigly because they're so stupid and they say stupid things, and you know, keep saying stupid things and we'll see, you know, how much we love you. And you can see what's happening in the movie industry.
Hmm.
Disney lost $1.1 billion because they're doing stupid things. Boy, are they not learned anything about marketing. Walt Disney is rolling in his grave. Disney has one thing: make entertainment for families, kids, and parents. That's their whole purpose in life. They're not. They're making stupid stuff. They make that they're promoting an agenda that is not family centric. Walt Disney created that company to be family centric. Period. That's Disney. If you don't want to do that, start another company because you're destroying your brand tremendously.
Hmm.
Same with anybody that goes off their brand. I mean, like I said, keep safe care. We bring caregivers to you and we pay them more. That's it. I don't have any other mission. I don't have any political agenda. That's all I want. I want caregivers to make more money and people to get good care. That's it.
Hmm.
I don't care about anything else. I want, and we got to get, in order to do that, we need really good caregivers. So we got to filter out the bad caregivers and kind of give that guarantee that those caregivers will be reliable. They'll show up. And if they don't show up, I have a backup.
Right.
My brand, real
Right.
simple. Don't destroy your brand. I mean,
Hmm.
it's like it takes a lifetime to make a name for yourself and only a few minutes to destroy it.
Hmm.
It's incredible how easy it is to destroy your name
Right.
by doing something stupid, you know, either unethical or just stupid.
Right. In one line.
Most people give
Yeah.
the benefit of the doubt, but if you don't, it's over.
Got it. In one line, why would anyone need to buy or do acquisition in stealth mode?
You frame that question again. I'm not quite sure what you're asking.
That's what you did. I think in your experience, you made a mechanism of acquiring companies in stealth mode. Did I understood that correctly, or did I not?
Oh, they might have been. Yeah, they might have been in stealth mode. So part of it, a lot of people do. Um, they don't let them know what they're doing
Mm-hmm.
until it actually is ready to go, because you know
Oh,
competitors could actually look at it and whatnot. So yeah, that's you don't. I don't do that very often.
I
So
see.
like with Keep Safe Care, everyone asked, "Do you need an NDA?" I'm like, "Good luck." They said, "What?" It's taken me 7 years to do this, and I knew what I was doing. If I gave it to you, it'd take you 7 years to do because you don't have me. You could copy it, but it won't be as good because you don't know all the intricacies that are in the back. You don't need to know the guy in the curtain pushing all the levers. So no, I don't need an NDA. I'll tell you everything that has to be done. There's a few secrets that we have, but mostly, nah, it's nothing revolutionary. It's evolutionary as opposed to revolutionary.
Right. Right.
So in stealth mode, the thing that most people think that their ideas are so good that people will steal it. No, they're not.
Right.
Really, I've not met one idea that is so earth shaking that
Right.
it will revolutionize. I mean, if you could get if you could if you got an engine that works on static electricity in the air, oh, that's pretty revolutionary. Nobody's done that. That's Ayn Rand did, or Atlas Shrugged. That was science fiction.
Hmm.
Nothing really revolutionary out there.
Okay. If you had a billboard and you could put anything on it, it cannot be your business or marketing of your business, and the whole world would see it. You are sure that everyone in the world would see it. What would you put? You can put pictures, text, anything you want.
Of what I'd like, I, I, I think, I'd put life is short. Don't be little.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
Think about
Yeah. Yeah.
it. It
Yeah.
answers all your questions. So we're not here for a long time.
Hmm.
And the whole reason why we are here is to help other people. And when you're not helping other people, you're being little.
Right.
And by helping other people, it's not saying I'm gonna help you and I make all the money, then you don't make anything. It's actually helping people.
Hmm.
It's actually trying to do a little good in the world.
What would you advise
And we
to
don't have
your?
a lot of time.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
We don't have a lot of time here. So that's what I'm saying. Life is short. Don't be little. Get
Right.
it? Play on words. You're short. Don't be little. No.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. What would you advise to your younger self or people who are just starting their career, like they're in their teenagers,
Yeah.
and jumping towards the 20s, and
Uh-huh.
they're trying to do what you are doing actually, or they would be doing what you are doing. What one or two piece of advices would you give?
Uh, it's helpful if you have a technical degree. Not necessary.
Hmm.
Um, Learn how to process information well. In other words, most people do not look at facts. That they what I call have selective ignorance. And when you do that, when you ignore certain facts, the outcome's always going to be wrong.
Hmm.
So I had a argument with my girlfriend. We're discussing something, and I said, "Well, it's like gravity." Well, prove that gravity works to me. And I'm like, "You're an engineer. I don't need to prove it to you. Just throw some." Well, you say it's 9.8 meters per second. Okay, give me your smartphone. So you had a smartphone. I'm going to look for the gravity app, and there's a gravity app on there. See what it says? 9.8 meters. Well, that doesn't prove anything. So I said, "Okay, I'm going to drop your phone on the bed. 1G, 9.8 meters per second. You happy now?" It's like gravity works everywhere. So that's why I say most people are ignoring facts
Right.
or they're changing facts, which is really disturbing. So go and get the facts. Number one, go and get facts and learn how to process those facts to a correct conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're getting wrong data or wrong facts, your conclusions will always be wrong,
Hmm.
always and forever. The other thing, if I had to speak to my younger self,
Hmm.
was start up earlier.
Okay.
Start earlier. I waited too long. I wish I'd started 10 years earlier.
Hmm. Like starting the business.
I had good ideas. I had good ideas. I mean,
Hmm.
when I was working with Texas Instruments out in the Permian Basin, I had three other guys, and this was, you're going to like this one. This was a year before Dell started. And the Dallas Star Telegram had a really good in their technology thing, how to make a personal computer.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, it was like, oh my God, it's instructions on how to do this. It's not that hard. So I was working in operations at Texas Instruments out in Midland, and three of my buddies we were going to do this. I was going to continue to work,
Mm-hmm.
and they would go and start making PCs on demand. The internet hadn't been invented, so you'd get a fax or something and say, "I want this PC," and we'd ship it out. And I did the back of the envelope. This is how much everything costs. And I also made the assumption that most of these things would start to drop in price or increase in capacity, one of the two. So you'll either, if you had a, wow, I'm really, if you had a 10 megabit hard drive, megabit now, not gigabit, not terabit, 10 megabit hard drive,
Mm.
it cost you $300. For $300, you'll either get 50 or it'll be cut in half for 10. So one of the two things would happen. Two of them said they'd do it. The other guy ended up moving to Houston. And we even had the name Permian Computer, PC, right? PC.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And a year later, Dell came out, and I called him up. I said, "Told you I was right. I was Dell before Dell.
Mm.
I said, it's going to happen. This is going to happen." And they're like, this is when Gateway was it. All these people were just, coming out mom and pop stuff. But I said, if we do it right, we could do PCs on demand. We put it in WIP, and then we do made to order PCs. Ship them anywhere.
Right.
Before
What's
the internet.
okay? What's your next best thing? Yeah, your next thing you want to do if you want to share.
Oh, wow.
Next
There's
big
little
thing.
things
Sorry.
that I want to do. Like
Mm.
we have a thing called Pill Pixie, which will prevent medication errors for taking pills.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I have another app that's called My House Rat that will help realtors and people looking for houses get it a lot easier. What else is there? There's like 4 or 5 other things in the back of my head, but I don't have the time to. I want, but my next thing that I'm going to do is sell licenses.
Mm.
So now, and what is the big difference between what we're going to do? So we have Keep Safe Care, our lab test work. So now we're going to replicate this throughout the country. I said, well, how are you going to do that? Well, we don't sell a franchise, though we're protecting ourselves having what's called a franchise disclosure document. We sell a license, a software license. But here's the difference. Most franchises in the United States for private duty cost between $100,000 and $250,000. You got to have that amount of money. With us, you need $20,000. And you get a better piece of software. You get a literally private duty in a box, and we have that trademark. So private duty in a box is what you get. So I can open up a private duty agency anywhere in the country, and once I get my license in the state, I'm in business. I get clients. I could get caregivers because you don't put jobs in because I know where the caregivers are. I'll teach you how to get referrals. You're in business
Mm.
for about 1/10 the cost of a franchise. More importantly, our royalties, quote, we don't really have royalties. We do have a software payment every month. It's about 1/5 the cost of a typical franchise. And more importantly, we cut your overhead in half. So I call it the 10-5-2. You remember marketing, sell bite-sized pieces of that steak. 10, 5, and 2. That sounds like Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper does have a 10, 6, and or 2, 6, and 10. But what's the 10, 6? What's the 10, 5, and 2? Well, our cost of a license is 1/10 of a franchise. Our periodic payments are 1/5, and we cut your overhead in half. So what is that going to do? Well, instead of being that 20% that has of the population that has over $100,000 in net worth or cash lying around or can get that loan, I've now opened it up to 70, 80% of the population. And I'm not, I'm not doing ESG scores or anything like that. The vast majority of people that will buy a license will be mostly women, and probably a lot of them women of color. I am not a woke individual. I'm an entrepreneur. I know who can do it, the care. And so what that allows me to do, I could have 1,000 locations in 3 years. I'll be the largest private duty agency in the country. Oh, and I could double that again. I could dominate this industry in 5 years. I could have 60 to 70% of the industry. And why? You're gonna like this one. The software we also allow our competitors to use, and they could keep their own brand. We white label our software. So the big franchise won't do it
Mm.
because they just won't, and I probably wouldn't sell it to them. But the mom and pops, which are 60% of the industry, they'll use it.
Right.
They'll switch over. so they could compete with the big franchise.
Very interesting. My third last question. Any regrets? Anything you want to change? Go back in time and change it, and or one regret, I should say, not more than one.
One
The
regret.
biggest
What's my
thing
one regret?
that's troubling you.
I really don't have any regrets. And people ask me if I had to do it all over again, would I? No, don't want to live all those things again. I'm absolutely content of where I am. I
Okay.
have, you know, I have to admit, I got divorced some years ago. Was that a mistake? Not getting married, maybe picked the wrong person. Fine, that's on me. But I have two great kids from it. So is that a regret? No. The regret is it didn't last, right? But it takes two people.
Hmm.
So I hope she's fine and doing whatever she's doing. But it, it, I learned a little bit of humility. I can't control people. No
Right.
matter how much you feel about somebody, you'll never ever ever control them, and
Right.
always be prepared to be disappointed, but don't
Hmm.
look for it.
Right.
So when you're disappointed, just move on. Just stop looking at that closed door. Go on with life. Life. The sun rises, the birds sing. The animals out doing what animals do. We're insignificant. So my one regret, if I had to do it all over again, I probably would have kept more of my friends when I was younger,
Right.
because your network is what makes you
Hmm.
the people. So part of what I did when I got on, I collect people. I Not because they'll do anything for me, but just because they're good people.
Hmm.
And every now and then you ask good people questions and they give you the correct answers. They'll tell you your faults and they'll tell you your strengths, and that's what you need with people that are good. They
Right.
they keep you in line. They keep you humble. So
Skilled.
that's probably the one regret. I would have stayed
Hmm.
close to some of the friends I met when I was younger.
By good, do you mean skilled people or good
No,
by
no,
nature?
no, just by it's real easy. And if I could give anyone advice, stay away from toxic people.
Hmm.
Stay away from people that are only looking out for themselves,
Right.
because you know by good people, those are people that want to help you
Hmm.
and don't look for anything in return. There's a book that I want everybody to read. It's called Give and Take.
Okay.
Give and Take. I wish that book was written 30 years ago, but it wasn't. Give and Take was written by a Harvard psychiatrist, a psychologist, and he did a study of what were the most successful people out of Harvard.
Hmm.
And Harvard's a pretty good, phenomenal school, right? Their network is impressive. I think nobody pays for tuition in the
Hmm.
freshman class. I mean, a huge endowment.
Hmm.
And he made the assumption that he thought it would be the highest scoring people in the graduating class. Nope. And that the people that failed would be the lowest scoring. No, it was all over. Like, the Midland people seem to do the best. And he was like, this doesn't make any sense. The bell curve, why are the people in the middle of the bell curve in grades doing so well outside of Harvard?
Okay.
And so he discovered three things. There are three types of people. There are givers,
Hmm.
there are matchers, and there are takers.
Hmm.
And the vast majority of people are matchers in the world, in the United States anyway.
Hmm.
You do something for me, I do something for you. The next are givers, and the last are takers. But he found something interesting about givers. The most successful people were givers, and the least successful people were givers. In their personality traits, they wanted to help other people, they gave things. But he couldn't understand why some givers were abject failures. I mean, skid row, drugs, everything. And he did his research and he found out those givers got hooked up with takers,
Hmm.
and you can never fill a taker.
Right.
But the other givers were these types of people. They were called strategic givers. The other ones were promiscuous givers. They gave to everybody. They had no discernment of whom to and whom not to give to.
Hmm.
But the other givers would only give to other givers.
Hmm.
And that's the people I collect. So, and what is a giver? You would ask me advice about anything. I would tell you what it is. I wouldn't tell anybody what you're doing. You'd say, would you keep this confidence? Sure. I said, I want to do this. We'll do this. And I do this for tons of people. And, oh, it turned out great. Super. Jeffrey, I got this other thing. Do you want to join? Yeah. What do you need? I get invited to everything. And the reason why I get invited to everything, I'm not going to take your idea. I'm not going to steal it. And I'm going to give you the best advice I have.
Hmm.
Some of my time, just invaluable. So those are the people I collect, other givers. So I have to tell a story at the end, and it's all about there is a gentleman here who runs a large steakhouse, very successful. And he was, we became friends because I had another startup that regrew hair and he wanted his hair regrown. So I met him that way. And it does actually work. That was one of the companies that didn't get funding. The technology works to regrow hair naturally, fine. That will happen again. And we know that it works scientifically. So got to know him. We became good friends. Like every other Friday, I'd go to his restaurant. We'd have martinis and, just talk about stuff. So one time he was talking about he wanted to sell his steakhouse. And I'm like, okay, who are you going to do it to? And it was a company that was in the branding world. His brand was up here and they were down there. And so I sat to him and then told him this, okay, I have a question to ask you. You have two sons, right? I know you have two sons. Yeah. What happened if one of those sons brings home a girl with a lot of tattoos and a nose ring and, she might be a little bit of a drug addict? How would you feel about that? He says, well, I wouldn't like that at all. I said, so why are you selling your company to that company? Because that's what they are. He says, this is your baby. And I said, and he was in his mid 40s. I said, I know why you want to sell this, because you also want to have an affair. And his eyes opened up. He goes, what? How do you know that? I said, you're bored. You need something to excite you. Men need challenge. I know that. He goes, and his wife's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. He goes, yeah, you're right. I said, you know what you're really good at? Restaurants. But you've done so well with this restaurant. You're bored. You can do it in your sleep. You can open up 100 of these and it will not challenge you at all because you know it's going to be a success. What you need is to develop a new concept.
Hmm.
You need something that you might fail in. That'll bring you alive. Lo and behold, he did a new one. And he's done another one. He did one that was a high-end family restaurant. And he's doing another one that's a high-end Mexican. That's what he's doing. And I said, remember your class. You do high-end and you can bring high-end down a little bit, but do not become, McDonald's. That is not your strength. Your strength is delivering really good food to the masses. And you're really good at that.
Right.
And lo and behold, he did it. And he's like, I and I even helped him with his branding. The one he ended up getting. It was called Carve. I said, boy, that's going to be an expensive URL to get because it's a regular word, and it was $250,000. And I came up with Cultured Carnivore because he wants to do meats, and I had a logo and everything for it. And he said, man, this is really good, but I want something shorter. I said, fine. I mean, I did Cultured Carnivore. He's a friend.
Hmm.
I even got a trademark for him. I said, it's yours. You paid for it. You can use it maybe some other time. Sell it to somebody.
Right. Right.
So, and the Cultured Carnivore the logo was really cool. It was like a little cat with a bow tie on it with a fork and knife. It
Hmm.
was it was cute because he wanted it for family, right? So those are the people I collect.
Right. Very interesting. I mean,
Yeah, and he's also a giver. He would
hmm.
I tell him ideas. He says, hey, if I can help you, I'd help you. If I can, I can.
Hmm.
So those are the kinds of people that I stay with. Takers, I run away from. They're
Right.
just they're just toxic people. Stay away from toxic drama queens,
Right.
drama kings,
Right.
people that are like a rocking horse. They're moving a lot, but they're not going anywhere.
Right. Right. My second last question. Uh, what would you advise for a software company or software group of people who are good in software, started marketing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They know their stuff, they think they know
Yeah,
their stuff, and other people also say that, uh,
yeah,
praise them, but they are too bad in business. They don't know anything about business. They cannot scale. They cannot get clients. But my question is actually with your philosophy, which I liked, which I was chasing since many time. Um, the long-term competitive advantage, strategic competitive advantage, and no marketing need at all, which you are doing exactly. Exactly, you're doing that. You don't market your business. It's
No, 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 no. We don't advertise our business. We market like crazy. We
okay.
just don't advertise.
Oh, okay. There's a
So
difference.
marketing is very important. Oh, we market,
Okay.
and we market the 2/3 rule, and this is how we market. You've heard of the golden rule,
Right.
right? 50-50.
Right.
You give to me, I give to you. That's the golden rule. Do unto others what they'll do unto you. That's the golden rule.
Right.
We do the 2/3 rule. We give 2/3 to our caregivers. So
Mm-hmm.
we're better than the golden rule.
Hmm.
I just marketed that to you. How are
Okay.
you going to fight against me? You
Right.
can't.
Right.
I just not only do I make you recognize the golden rule, yeah, of course, but I'm doing better than the golden rule. How are you not going to recommend me? You don't recommend me, I don't want to do business with you because you're an idiot and
Right.
you're an ass.
Right.
so,
Right.
so we market. We market a lot. I don't advertise. That's the difference. So there's a guy named that invented the department store. His name was I can't remember his name now. But he had the quote that says, "I know half of my advertising is wasted. I just don't." A Wanamaker. I just don't know which
Which
half.
one? Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which half? I don't know
Mm-hmm.
which half is wasted. So advertisement, it's to get new clients. That's not the way we do it. We use our caregivers as our ambassadors. That's the best way. Just do good. People will come to you.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead back to your thing about this company with the software. They're not marketing correctly, and they have a hard time getting new
They're
business.
not good with business. They're good with skills, technical, software development. I mean, you name anything. They're capable people.
Okay.
But the long term competitive advantage and the auto scaling kind of thing, or your marketing strategy, what you just said, they need some strategy to market and a long term competitive advantage. I think that's the
Okay.
main problem here.
Can I give you an example
Yeah.
with actually the company that does our software?
Mm-hmm.
And she that's the other thing. She's a female doing software, which is like a unicorn on a unicorn.
Okay.
Literally, wow. So she was having a hard time figuring out how to grow a business.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a sit down session. And
By the way, sorry
we
to interrupt you. They
you
do offshore. They do offshore. They hire
know
from
they
Asia.
also
Okay.
three of their people are onshore as well.
Okay.
So her partner's in New Hampshire, and one of their designers in New Hampshire, and she's in Austin. But
Okay.
they also do offshore all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
So when she started, she went to India and initially got some people there because she was thinking, oh, offshoring, I'm going to do what everybody else does. And then she's been at this 20 years, and what she figured out was two things: what they're really good at.
Mm-hmm.
They're good at data visualization. That's what they're really good at doing. Data lakes, creating data repositories, taking what they call dirty data and putting it in a unified data
Mm-hmm.
stream, which is you know a, a talent, right?
Mm-hmm.
They they're really good at doing that, and they understand there's a few silos that they have to go to. And one of the silos, they do a lot of stuff for NGOs. So USAID is one of their big clients, and they do a lot of stuff for like not St. John, Johns Hopkins and the University of Washington. A lot of people that are trying to save the world. God love them, and they do it reasonably. So they're not the cheapest, they're not the most expensive, but they're the best. And so she was trying to figure out, what do we really do that
Mm-hmm.
well? And she says, well, we do this. And I said, no, you got it all wrong. She says, what do you mean? You're an expert at hurting experts.
Mm-hmm.
She looked at me and says, what? What's the hardest thing in the world to do? Hurt cats. What's harder than that? Hurting people with egos.
Mm-hmm.
And she sat back and she goes, oh my God, you're right. I said, yeah. So when you talk to people, do not tell them you do data warehousing. Tell them you're an expert at getting experts to agree so you can get stuff done. You cut through the bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And she's expert at that. And I happened to have gone to a conference with her, and I was sitting in her booth, and she said, "Would you mind sitting in my booth while I go and do this presentation?" And I said, "Sure." So people were there, and I listened to her talk and everything. She said, "No, you don't do data warehousing. You don't do you're making it easier for them to get their product out, and you do it well. So what are you really good at doing? I take all the experts and I distill their thoughts. Nobody does that. That's your long-term strategic competitive advantage. Anybody could do programming. I could do programming. I could
Mm-hmm.
probably do it pretty well. There's no value add for me. My 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 value add is I could see a market, I could see a need, and I could see what needs to be done to fill that need. That's what I'm really good at doing. Everything else, anybody could do.
Okay.
Nobody can do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So you always have to look at what you can do that nobody else can do that is needed.
Okay.
So your software company, skills be damned. Anybody can get skills.
Mm-hmm.
What you have to ask is, what will the world happen if you didn't use me? In other words, if you use my company, how will my company be better? So you're always selling to your customer's customer. So, and this is where people they stop at their customer. They don't see what their customer is trying to sell to their customer. When you could do that, sales get really easy.
Mm.
So if I could solve your customer's problem, you're just the intermediary. You're going to use me. So these guys or gals, whatever that are there, they do all this great program, but do they know their customer's customer? No.
Mm.
That's why they can't sell. It's why you'll never be able to sell. So who's
Mm.
my customer's customer? Ultimately, my customer, my caregivers. That's my customer. My customer's customers are my clients. That's where I make my money.
Mm.
I need good caregivers that are loyal and reliable. So I don't have to do, so I could take 3 hours to talk to you. The call that I got was from another company. It's not from, I know my caregivers are where they belong. Don't have to even worry about it.
Right.
Don't worry about it at all. Occasionally, once a quarter, I get a call. Someone's sick or they can't make it. The car broke down. Fine. I have a care ambassador to fill in. But I mean, I could talk to these guys for a half hour. I could ask what they're doing. I said, tell me what you want to do. No, no, no. Don't tell me what you program. Tell me what industry you want to solve something in. Do you know? Because what you're doing now is just coding. You're
Mm.
not creating.
Right.
It's like making a movie without a storyboard. Yeah, I could do all these animations, great. I could do
Right.
green screen super, but what do you do?
Right.
What do you make? What difference are you? And if you don't have a differentiator, you're only left with price. And zero is going to be the price you're going to pay.
Okay.
I want it for free. Nobody will ask for it, but they want the cheapest price possible. Unless you can lead with a differentiation, you're only left with price. And if you're left with price, you'll never make money.
Let's suppose that the project managers are smart enough to go to get the requirements for the customers of the customer. Let's suppose that. Even if
Mhm.
that's true, how do you convey that? I mean, a person, your customer, don't know you yet that you are capable of doing that, and you do that actually, and you have that vision, and your managers or the X person or the responsible person
Mhm.
has that vision, and we practice that. You don't know, the customers don't know you, and you cannot scale. You cannot tell them, convince them. Yeah.
Hold on. If I go to a customer,
Mm.
okay, I'll make any customer up. Let me think. I'm going to a grocery chain. What do grocery chains really want? They work on incredibly thin margins. They have a lot of inventory. They have a lot of waste. They have a lot of things. They have problems. One, two, three, four, five problems. And they're trying to, keep their costs down and get better service to the customer. And I'm going back a few years before curbside delivery was there. If you came to a grocer and said, I could help minimize your waste of produce and increase your sales.
Mm-hmm.
How? By doing this app. I could track your food and I could also make it so people can order online.
Mm.
Nobody cares about price then. Price is not even a thing. How do you do that? Here's how I'm going to do it. It's generic. So when I was in the semiconductor world, when our DSPs were coming out, the reason why I was able to sell is because I knew what their customers' customers were. So I would go to equipment manufacturers and say, you want to be able to sell that piece of product to this thing. I'm going to make it so you can get it to them faster and have more flexibility in the design and lower your price. Oh, and by the way, you could add these features because I know that's what they want. You could do that? Yeah. Price was never an issue. Never discussed price. Never had to discount, ever.
Right.
They said, how fast can you get the product here? Because I knew my customer's customer. I never sold to them. They were the conduit to get me to the end product. That customer will never know it was Harris. They would know it was Harris. They're going to know it's E-Systems or wherever it was. Here, I'm going to tell you the first time I had this customer's customer. I used to sell military semiconductors for Texas Instruments.
Mm-hmm.
And I know in the military space, reliability is critical. So they had these testing sample sizes that they had parts defective, allowed PDA, you had to do a failure rate of 10%. It was all this thing. Well, I looked at our statistics and I said, well, geez, we only have a 1% failure, with this. Let's do it 1% instead of 10%. So I put that down everywhere. And so I had to go out to Hughes. Hughes at the time was a nonprofit, and they were buying some sole source products, and we were selling them at a loss. So I had to raise the price substantially. And then they also said, well, why is it that we should pay the full freight or a little bit more for your product than everybody else? And I said, okay, you have 2 stars on your things, right? Yeah. If I put my product into your missile, the chances of it hitting its target, 100%. You put my competitors there, chances are 80%. Is it worth you losing one of those stars for a missile that goes astray? Do you see who my customer was? It wasn't Hughes. It was that general. And he came back, he said, pay the man. Because I showed him. I knew it was important to my customer. I don't want munitions to fail. I don't want them to go off target. I don't want them to blow up unnecessarily. I want that reliability. They're willing to pay for that. And at the end, it was only 1% more across. I mean, it wasn't even 1% more. I showed them what the total cost was. Oh, and by the way, you get, hold on, 99% on-time delivery, no returns, yada, yada, yada. I went down the fully borne cost of what it was. And at the end, my piece price was higher, but my total cost was about 70% of my competitors. I took TI from the number 5 supplier to the number 1 supplier of military semiconductors in 2 years. Done.
Interesting.
Made money. With 1/3 less people, by the way. It became the most profitable division of TI. And just simple marketing, knowing my customer's customer. If they don't know their customer's customer, why are they in business? They're never going to make money. I'm sorry. You could be the greatest programmers in the world. Not going to make money. Can I give you an example of how not knowing your customer is not going to make you money? Disney. The last 10 movies Disney has made, they've lost money. Why? Let me tell you why. They don't write a good script because they don't understand the hero arc. People do not like Mary Sue's, which is the MC universe. You need character development. You need someone that doesn't have any skills, that goes through the valley of death and comes back with a skill and beats the bad guys. You don't want somebody that's all powerful. I have a God movie. I come in, I'm God. I can do everything I need to do and nobody can touch me and I'm going to be the best of everything and I can't be faulted. That's unrealistic. Nobody believes that. It's not reality. You don't know your customer. Customers, families with kids. They don't want all this BS. So make a good movie. You can't make good software unless you know your customer. Disney just proved that. They're the mouse. They are the biggest studio in the world. Let me tell you which brands they killed. Indiana Jones, Star Wars. Do we have another one? Yeah, we do have another one. I can't remember what it is. But they've destroyed all these brands. All of them. They killed them off because they didn't write good software. Film is software.
Does that mean?
Don't write software.
Right.
Yeah. Can they draw? Can they shoot? Can they direct? Yeah. Can they do all these? Yeah, they can do all that stuff. Yeah. Don't write a good story. Can't sell to your audience.
Does that mean that in order to know your customers, you have to know and be restricted to a niche or niches. Not, I mean, you can't have
No.
all the customers in the world. You have to be specialized in some niche or one niche, right?
Did you hear what I said very beginning? You only need 1%. It's not a
Right,
lot.
right,
So those guys
right,
or gals have to say, we want to be in these silos. They call them silos. You can call them whatever, tent poles. They call them all different things. But we want to be here, here, and here. Who are the leaders in here, here, and here?
right,
You're not going to sell to them. Who are the people below them? That's who you're going to sell to. Why? Because leaders don't give a crap about you. They're already leading. The people below want to be the leaders. So you got to sell where the market is. I mean, where the need is. So let's say I'm in reinsurance. Just, just pull it out there. What does reinsurance deal with? Money, lots of it. And what do they try to do? Is maximize their. They have a lot of data from a lot of places. So you don't go to the number one reinsurer. You go to the 2, 3, and 4, because 2, 3, and 4 want to be number one. So you show 2, 3, and 4 how they could be number one, how they could beat those people,
right.
and you'll be successful. Now, it takes effort. It takes market research.
Mm-hmm.
It takes, you're just not going to get there. You're going to probably start with number 10, maybe number 13. But unless you know what you want to be the best at in your silos, you're just another software company. You're just another software company. Dime a dozen. And it's just luck.
True.
And if you're just another software company, good luck to you. Yeah, you'll make money. It'll be a lifestyle business. You'll get word of mouth, but
Right,
you'll never grow.
right, right.
And the objective is, this is my quote: differentiate or die.
Mm.
You don't differentiate, you're dead. You're just leading with price. It's a quick slide to zero.
This had been one of my best podcasts by now. I'm very honored to have you. Um, I have podcasts with a lot of good people, experienced people, fantastic people, but this is one of the best podcasts.
Thank you.
Is there anything I can do for you? I'm not asking for business or any transactions, but anything.
Yeah, you let me pontificate for 2.5 hours, and
That's a
it's
lot
funny.
of value
Before I
already.
started, I rubbed my nose, and I'm
Uh,
kind of glad that the phone didn't work because I had a bloody nose, and I'm like, I cannot believe this. I haven't had a bloody nose in 2 years. I happened to get one this morning. I'm like, oh, perfect.
right, right, right.
It,
My
it, it happens. And that's the other thing, is that most of the time you're going to fail. Uh, how quickly can you get back up and keep running? You're going to trip, you're going to stumble, you're going to run into walls. Look for other things. And most people get defeated too easily. They're, as I like to say, fragile
mm,
or brittle. And if you get broken that easily, world's hard. World doesn't owe you anything. We're not entitled to anything. You got to make it. Bend to your will. And I know that sounds really like, oh my God, he's like, conquer the world. No, the world wants you dead. The world doesn't care if rat's ass. Remember, in the end, we're all dead. And the world doesn't think any of us are special
mm,
at all. So how
right.
do you make yourself special? How do you do good in the world? How do you make it so that people want you to succeed? Super easy. Help them.
Mm,
First, go looking to help. So if I'm in the software, I guarantee you in a half hour, if I sat down with these guys, I said, okay, if I'm talking to this salesperson, you're a salesperson, and I'm talking to the managers who can make the decision. How are you going to help them? Do you know their problems? Why would they use you? Tell me your biggest problems. And it's usually not, I got to make this product. It's usually something mundane as hell. Like, Sally's a pain in the ass. I can't get her to do anything. Blah, 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 blah. Do you know this? Do you know that? Become a resource. I used to learn things that I had nothing to do with my regular job, but I always got called. And why did I always get called? Because I had that font of information. Even to this day, with my girlfriend, when we're talking about something, I joke and I said, Alexa, am I right? Yes, you are, Jeffrey. Because I research all the time. I enjoy it. Become knowledgeable. Read, if you're in the software, read what industries you want to dominate in. You're not going to dominate all of them.
mm,
You dominate a few. So whatever silos you want to go into, learn everything you can about that industry, what the problems are, where the successes are coming from, where the new competitors are coming. When you know that, you'll know what they're selling. And when you know what they're selling, you could tell your client, I can help you get to what these new products are. Remember state machines. It's always about state machine. The people buying your software are not those customers. It's the customer that they're selling to. That's who's ultimately buying your software.
Mm-hmm.
They're just an enemy. Remember state machines. You're going to want to use it for them. So case in point with Keep Safe Care, right? My customer initially is going to be licensees, but not really. My customer is the client in the end. I want them get a great caregiver, be able to pay more, do the 2/3 rule, all these other things. So that client and my other customer, the caregivers, are happy. And if everybody's happy, I make a lot of money. But if they're not happy, it falls on me. If I'm not helping them, why use me?
Mm.
If I'm not helping my licensees make good money with very little effort, they're not going to use me. Every day I got to step up to the plate, hit it out of the park. Tough thing to do. I'm ready for it. Sometimes I will, sometimes I won't. But that's my goal. Always to help these people help other people. My customer's customer is really simple. It's the end client and the caregiver. Get it. I want my ultimate goal is, hear me out. Here's the long term. I have 10,000 caregivers in the United States, all making $6 to $10 more per hour. That's an impact.
Mm.
They're beyond a living wage. They're making a good wage now. That changes the industry forever.
Right.
Forever. If you're going to do anything, as I always say, if you're going to rob Fort Knox. If you're going to steal from Fort Knox. Why steal little? Steal big.
Mm.
If you're going to do something, think big. May not get big, but think big. If it
Right.
has the possibility of being big, go and do it.
Right. Right. Is there any single niche you would recommend? Of course, I mean, it can be any niche, and there's no basis for that. But in your mind,
What do they specialize in now? I mean, what are their clients?
um, yeah, web applications, SaaS, software as service, these kind of applications are the
So
primary expertise.
they help companies that sell software as a service, correct?
No, it can be anything. It can be any online, let's say ERP. ERP software is a SaaS. So we build SaaS.
Ah,
Let's say we are making
so
any kind of SaaS. ERP is one of
okay,
them.
so my company, Keep Safe Care, is a SaaS company, software as a service.
Hmm.
So I get where you're coming from.
Hmm.
So what industries do you go into?
A lot. I mean, there's no
Ones that
one.
are not heavily. Here's the thing: ones that are not or are heavily regulated, one of the two, but one that doesn't have any critical mass. So in in case in point, private duty, there is no dominant player in private duty.
Hmm.
There's 20, 20 players out of 50 control half the market. There's no dominant player. Oh, guess who's going to be that dominant player? Me. In one day we may have 60% of the market because people can't compete with us. So look at markets where there's no one dominant player.
Hmm.
Because if there's a dominant player, if there's a dominant player that owns 40% of the market, that's a good market to be in. If there's a dominant player that owns 80% of the market, it's going to be a long slog because they're doing something right. So look at a market that one is growing or has problems.
Hmm.
And by problems, there's a chronic, they they always complain about. In my case, caregiver turnover, caregiver truancy. And so I had to dig down and find out what are the root causes of that. Why do caregivers leave?
Hmm.
And it's not always about salary. It's about autonomy. It's about hours, like they don't have enough hours. And it's also about distance driven. Believe it or not, they send caregivers driving an hour for 4 hours worth of work. That's stupid. That's just stupid.
Hmm.
And what it does is just it devalues the caregiver. Their
Right.
time is worthless to you.
Right.
And so this I'm doing nothing different except I'm looking at caregivers differently. They're the same people. I tell them, and I do tell them this, and I believe this. You have a skill set I will never possess, and I've done 10 startups. When they hear that, they sit up straight. What? This dude is telling me I have a skill set he'll never possess? What the hell's going on here? And it's true. And I tell them, I don't have a business unless I have good caregivers. I need you more than you need me. I'm going to repeat that. I need you more than you need me. And they're like, why? You can find another job. I'm not going to find another good caregiver really quickly. I need you. When that relationship
Hmm.
changes, and I never tell them what to do, I ask them, I have this opening. Can you do this? No. Or yes. Great. I can get another caregiver. I'm going to give it to the people I know first. Ask them. That dynamic is so foreign in this industry. It's disturbing.
Right.
And I knew nothing about it. 10 years ago, I didn't know anything about in-home care. I had to take care of my mom. I you know, went on the internet with my cat paws, found this thing, and they almost killed my mom. So there you go.
Right.
And by the way, the name of the company, I have an angel to remind me of who almost killed my mother. That's why I picked that logo. Remember, I
Hmm.
was a branded guy. Always remind me.
Right.
It's the whole reason why Netflix got started. The guy had a $69 late fee for Spider-Man 2.
Hmm.
And he said, wait a second, the film only costs 19. Can I just buy it? Nope. Nope. Because you were late 3 weeks, we're charging you $69. And he was livid. Went home, started Netflix.
Right.
So as I saying, if necessity is the mother of invention, dissatisfaction is the father. And that's my quote.
Hmm.
Being dissatisfied, boy, that makes you do a lot of things. So find out from what industries has a huge dissatisfaction. That's SaaS, right? That can be solved with software. There's tons of them out there. I mean, trucking, airlines, food delivery, laundry services. I mean, just look at all the services that have, that they have to go from point A to point B, and there's a whole bunch of inefficiencies out there. I guarantee you, if you ask every one of those software people that they deal with whatever their everyday lives, oh, this sucks and this sucks and I don't get, and it's always late and this and that, tons of things
Hmm.
that you could, tons. I go to these places and I'm like, boy, this is really stupid to do this. It would be better if they did it this way. I mean, all day long. I see opportunities all day long. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Or, it would make a lot more sense if you did this,
Right.
all day. All day. I could do it all day. And you could throw a dart on any industry and say, what are the biggest problems in this industry? And can our software help?
Ultimately,
And if we can't,
I see making a product of your own. But once you get into a niche and you conquer the niche and you understand the
oh,
problems, ultimately,
yeah, then you sell it as a box software.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I was talking to Stacy, the lady that owns Project Balance, and she was telling me there's this software that everybody's DIH2 or something like that. I said, well, you have to do all these workarounds with it. Why can't you make something that's just like a data lake that people could buy your product that does an automatic translation? Well, we thought about that. Blah, blah, blah. Well, now you can just sell it as a SaaS model, and it's like WordPress. So WordPress, great engine, right? It works for everything. There's a company called Elegant Designs that allows you to use WordPress in a responsive mode, super easy. That's going to be a success.
Hmm.
So WordPress is the platform, super easy to use. Everybody uses WordPress, to get it going, but to make it look great. And case in point, I had to do soft websites, and I was doing HTML. I said, "There's got to be a tool out there that's good." So I went and researched it, found Elegant Designs for WordPress. Holy moly! The amount of time that I wasted doing HTML, I learned how to do this in the same amount of time, like 2 days. I could do a website now in 2 hours.
Hmm.
2 hours. I have a full stack website with everything in it. No problem. Using Elegant Designs, great tool because they keep making new things, right? So if you look at WordPress, they have plugins. And the way that people advertise is that they got this cool plugin and then you do a pro version, right? So I want more features. Great. I'll pay the $29 or $10 a year or whatever the hell it is to get this. And it works. It works great. I mean, I'm looking at like Azure and their .NET. They have a great service. Amazon makes all their money on their AWS, web services.
Mm-hmm.
They don't make any money on their selling product online. They make it on all the stuff in the back end. They made that pivot. They finally figured out, wow, it'd be better if we let all these mom and pops, sell their product on our site. We just charge a fortune for it. Yep. In a gold rush, you want to be selling picks and shovels and water.
Mm.
And that's what I'm doing. The gold rush is aging, caregiving. I'm selling picks and shovels, supplying caregivers. That's what I do. Real simple.
Right.
Do that. If they told me the customers that they got, and here's the other way to think about it. The customers that you have gotten, the ones that said thank you, why did they say thank you? What did you do? What problem did you solve that you didn't know you were solving because you didn't know that you can replicate this? Your existing customers are the best ones to get you new customers. And they'll tell you, oh, it allowed me to do this with my customer. When you hear with my customer, oh, can you tell me more about what your customer needs? Mm-hmm. It's super easy. Market research is the easiest thing in the world to do. You got to be not afraid of rejection. You got to ask questions and listen. Remember, listen, data. People do not listen to the facts. They assume stuff. They assume they know something. Every day I wake up, I know I'm an idiot because I don't know everything. And I'm okay with that. I'm going to learn something. I learn about you. I learned you have this need. I'd be glad to help you. No problem. I'm not going to get up at 7 a.m. to help you. I'm going to do it.
Right.
But I'll be glad to help you.
Right.
So, you gave me a little bit of time. I know how to do this stuff. I know how to look at it. I know what my core competencies are, and I know I'm what I'm not good at. So I'm not a great proofreader. I constantly make spelling errors. No matter how well I try to proofread. It's like, I should say at the end, hey, I know there's a misspelling on here. Don't be upset about it. It's not that I'm not lazy. It's just I'm not a good proofreader. I have dyslexia or something. I have no idea.
Fantastic. Last question. Is there anything you wanted to add to this podcast? Did I miss anything? Did you want it to be asked a question that I missed?
Actually, yes. Books to read.
Okay.
Anybody that wants to be good in anything, continuously read.
Okay.
We stand on the shoulders of giants. Seriously. I mean, I actually cry sometimes when I see the people that have gone before us and what they gave us.
Right.
And most of it's written. It's out there for free or incredibly cheap.
Right.
But in marketing, in sales, absolutely How to Win Friends and Influence People by Carnegie. Absolutely do that. There's another one called The Luck Factor. I can't remember. I think his name's Luckman did the Give and Take. I can't remember who did The Luck Factor. Give and Take is another, and these are just easy reading books. They're not in depth. They're not strategic. What's the other one? Give and Take. There's a marketing one. I can't remember what it is. I have a list somewhere, but every now and then I go back and read them, just because I forget a lot. But if you want the book put by your bedside, is How to Win Friends and Influence People, and they have little short chapters. They're like 4 or 5 pages. Open the book up random, just read it. Just read it. And the gist of the book, there's like 41 things he talks about. But the gist of the book is this. It doesn't matter where you started. It doesn't matter how much money you started with. It doesn't matter your education. It doesn't matter anything except heaven helps those that help themselves. It literally is that simple. Help yourself. You started, the universe all the things of manner will come to your aid incredibly. But most people don't even start.
Hmm.
They don't even start. They like, oh, I started, it's too hard. Okay, bye. Life is hard. It's even harder still when you're trying to make something. Just existing is difficult. Starting a new company, I look at Elon Musk. This guy must never go to sleep.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
holy,
Right.
the guy's and, like, and he's thoughtful. He just doesn't say off the cuff crap. He's a very thoughtful man.
Hmm.
I'm like, dude. I mean, he's younger than me, but I've learned a hell of a lot from him. And,
Hmm.
and that's the other thing. You not only learn from your friends, you learn from your enemies. Matter of fact, you tend to learn more from your enemies because if they're your enemies, there's something about you they don't like, but there's something about them that you have to learn.
Hmm.
You learn more on your defeats than you ever do in your victories.
Right.
So
Right.
that's it. Books. What was it? I could send you a list of the books that
Hmm.
I have like 10 of them that are like must reads.
Okay.
But the reason why I remember those, I just read them again recently.
Hmm. Okay.
And the luck factor. The reason why the luck factor. The guy did a. He was in London. He actually did a research on luck. Why some people consider themselves lucky and why other people consider themselves unlucky. And strangely, people that consider themselves lucky are lucky, but it isn't by luck. They actually manufacture their own luck. There are things you could do to increase your chances of being lucky.
Hmm.
I'm like, really? I have to read this book. And lo and behold, it's pretty simple. One thing that you do, and this is do something different every day. Hear me out. So if you get up, you get dressed, brush your teeth, you know, you do the SSS, shower, shave, and the other thing,
Hmm.
and you go to work on the same route. One of those things, change the order that you do it, or do it with your left hand, or instead of making that right turn, take a little bit longer. Go a different way.
Okay.
Take a little extra time, go a little different way. You will come into your brain will start seeing things that you never saw.
Hmm.
And he actually does the thing. When you're looking for a car and you say, I think I'm going to buy a Mini. I don't know if they have Minis in Turkey. Um, I'm going to buy a Mercedes, or BMW, a certain type of BMW. Then you see them everywhere. And you're like, I didn't know there were that many BMWs out. You never noticed them until you're looking for that BMW. Well, changing your routines makes you look at things that you've never seen in a different way. It's that simple.
Okay.
Be observant.
Hmm.
I'm observant because I went to military school and they made you paranoid. Because my paranoid is like whenever you sit in a room, always put your back to the door, expect an enemy to come in. You always have your head on a swivel. I don't do that quite as much, but because it taught me that, I'm observant. I look at things. I see how people are walking. I see how many people are. I look at their shoes. I look at their hair. I look at their smile. I look at a lot of things. It's become a lot easier now to discern, because luckily people now color their hair, so I know to avoid them. Anyway, it's like before certain characteristics. Are they smiling? Happy people tend to be a lot easier to work with than people that are not smiling.
Hmm.
You bring a smile. You come up, smile to someone. Hello, how are you?
Hmm.
It's disarming. Little things. You could create your own luck factor. And that book is surprised me that this guy did an experiment,
Hmm.
and he did multiple stories about it. And I'm like, either he's the biggest BS artist, or it really does work. I have to believe it does, because he's done the experiment a few times. One of the experiments was in a coffee shop, and he left like a 5-pound note outside of it, did this one thing, and that the lucky person saw it on the ground, picked it up, bought coffee for somebody, made a connection. They did a movie together. The unlucky person, she walked right by it. She didn't even see it. Sat down. There's one open chair. She just sat there, didn't talk to anybody. Starting conversations with strangers is probably one of the best things you can do.
Hmm.
Be generous. Ask them questions. Where are they going? How are you doing it? At an airport, I always talk to people. I always talk. Hey, where are you going to? Great. Going skiing? How long you been skiing? Do you like it? What mountain do you like the best? Why do you go there? They know nothing about me, but except the fact, man, that's a great guy. I had such a good time with him.
Mm. Same
I
feelings
don't even
here.
remember their name, but I remember their name.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
the reason why I'm generally interested in it. And they're giving me information for free. Hello, Facebook.
Right. Right.
When people give you information and they tell you what's important to their lives, hello, companies, that's how you make sales. That's how you make sales.
Mm.
I've met people that I've done business with just randomly at the airport. Asked what they did, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Oh, are you having any problems with that? They tell me some, yeah, I can't do this. Well, I know somebody that can. Do you want their name? Would you give it to me? Sure. It's really good. Tell them Jeffrey sent you. With a recommendation. All the time. All the time.
Mm.
It's it's incredible how much free business is out there if you just open your mouth and ask questions. But a lot of things we feel we're embarrassed. If they ask us something we may not know, there's nothing to be embarrassed. No one really cares about you at
Mm.
all. They care about themselves. So if you can make it important about themselves, you're gonna get business. That's the other thing. That's the other thing that how to influence and influence people. No one cares about you. No one cares. And if you did something stupid, it's gonna be forgotten in 18 minutes or 18 days. Nobody cares. Nobody's cares. And if they do remember it, it's gonna be like, well, it wasn't that bad.
Mm.
Or we have horrible memories, incredibly, because other stuff comes into it. Gets pushed out of the way. So that's all I could say. Read. Do a
Mm.
lot of read. Books and articles, whatever you want to get good at, just read. I do it all the time. I do a lot of reading.
Right.
And I do reading outside of what my expertise is. So, like, not expertise, but what my focus is, like caregiving. I do what are other things that could affect caregiving? We don't live in a bubble, right? We don't live in an isolated thing. What are things that are outside that I can be careful with? Case in point, there are certain people I don't want to hire as caregivers.
Mm-hmm.
And why? Because they have an agenda. They're not about caring. They're about whatever. Bye. Not even going to hire you. Not even going to interview you.
Mm.
Don't even want to take the chance. So I would not have known that if I'm reading things about, oh, okay, I got to ask that question now. And it's not an EEOC violation. It's just a question. It's an open-ended question, and they start rattling off. I said, well, I think this is not going to work out.
Right.
And through experience, we've found out, I've taken a few chances. Nope. I learned don't hire this type of person. It's just not going to be good. And it's not what you think, believe it or not.
Right.
So vast majority of our caregivers are either African American or Hispanic, and they're wonderful, by the way. They tend to be very reliable. So, and they're flabbergasted that we pay so much. They're like, hold on, you're not going to make me work like 6 months and then give me a 50-cent raise? No, this is what the job entails. And if you're not doing it, I'm going to pay the exact same thing to whoever replaces you. What? Yeah. It negotiations go off the table. It's like literally that's a 30-second thing. I'm charging the client 27. I'm going to pay you 18 and I give you $10 trip fee. Is that good? Why'd you tell me how much you're paying the client? Because I want you to know that you're making 2/3. That's the rule. Oh, wow. Okay. And if it's 30, you're getting 20. If it's 33, you're getting 22. We have paid people $30 an hour because we were charging 45 and it was driving somebody. We paid them 30 an hour plus trip fee. Client would pay it. They get the amount of money. I make a little bit, I'm happy. I have a happy caregiver.
Right. Right. Fantastic. Fantastic. It was a pleasure. This is a
Thank you.
small word, but how do you look
Now,
forward?
is your first name Masood? It's Masood, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, just want to make sure it's correct. I was saying
Yes.
it correctly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How do you see this podcast series or our interaction in future
Your podcast?
and our interaction
Oh, say that again.
and our interaction,
Oh, the
mine and yours?
interaction. Can I give you an idea
Yep.
that snippets? So like I talked about a lot of stupid stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Some was relevant, some, but like you put like 2 minutes, 3 minutes of this long thing of here's where he's talking about marketing, here's where he's talking about branding. On all your people, they here's how they talk about technology, and put a little. Remember, you want to sell bite-sized pieces of what people are doing. Why did you start this company? Here's a problem. Here's a great thing that would be kind of cool is um, post a problem. All of these people you're talking to are entrepreneurs. They know how to solve problems
Mm-hmm.
through a spectrum. Get people to say, I want 5 minutes of your time. I have this problem. How would you solve it? You'd be fascinated. I mean, I would watch that. Like, okay, we have this problem. Something, okay, how would you deal with the Bud Light situation? They would not talk about anything. For me, it's super simple. I made a mistake. This was the flea on the tick, on the tail, wagging the dog. You lost the people that you're like, say you're sorry. You made a mistake. Not a big deal. Until you say you're sorry, you're going to go bankrupt. Why? Because 80% of your people that drunk your beer don't like what you're talking about. So you just, and the people that you're trying to promote don't drink beer. Brilliant.
Mm.
No, without saying you're sorry, if, case in point, if I'm married and I slept with a woman and my wife found out and I never said I'm sorry, how long do you think I'd stay married? Even if I do say I'm sorry, I may not stay married. You made a mistake. You don't know your mistake. You're going to die.
Mm.
It's a big mistake, dude. This was a huge mistake. So that's what I do. Pose a problem. Whatever the problem is. Hey, we want to go, we want to, we want to get rid of oil and gas, coal-fired things, but we're not making any more nuclear power. Is that a good idea? No, no, it's not. Make nukes everywhere. Put them everywhere. They don't put any CO2 out. If you really are serious about that, nukes everywhere. Don't want to do that. Why? Oh, what would you do? I would not make plutonium. I would make thorium, because thorium you can't make into nuclear bombs, and the half-life of thorium is only 100 years. That's why I'd make it. There's another problem doing it, and there's no grift in it. There's a big grift in turbines and solar panels. So, our pipeline's bad. Maybe, is pose a problem. What would you come up? There's plastic in the ocean. What would you do? How would you solve that problem? All the hunger. There's droughts. There's wars. How would you go about doing this? Pose a problem. The problem in Ukraine. How would you fix that? You don't have to be right. It's a problem. How would you do it? There's a spectrum of ways to do it. No one is absolutely correct, but it'd be fascinating to find, okay, how do I market to my client? Or you may just do things in business. Case in point, how do I find new clients in this space? Whatever it is, or what's the best way to market this? What price should I charge for this? How can I outflank my competition? What do I do? What would you do if an employee stole some of your trade secrets? You get down to small things. You don't have to be geopolitical about it, but it's like, how can I get more? How can I pay my employees more and get more out of them? Do I have to pay them more? Do I have to pay them more to get more out of them? Or keep them staying with me? Do they want something else? Most people make the mistake that everybody wants more money. Nope. They want more. They want more authority. They want more responsibility, and they want more recognition. Recognition is worth much more to people than money. Once you make over a certain amount of money, it's recognition and trust. I want you to run this project. Fantastic. And when it's done, here's a bonus. It's how do I motivate my employees? How do I keep them loyal? How do I lower my turnover? How do I'm spending too much on HR and spending too much on payroll and spending too much on electricity, whatever. How do I reduce my costs? How do I do this? How do I, nobody has all the answers, but together you'll probably come up with a pretty good answer.
I could have gone like 5 more hours, but there's a next podcast coming, and
No, you're gonna be tired.
no, no, I'm absolutely not tired. I'm pretty
So
amazed
thank
by
you,
my
thank
pleasure.
you.
Totally my pleasure.
Give me the link when it's all done so I can hear myself pontificate.
Definitely, definitely. I'll be
Thank you,
in
sir.
touch via
Take care.
email. Thank you. Thank you once
All right.
again.
Take care, man.
God bless. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.